And now Purdy has to be very careful. This game is actually out of control. Luke fighting too. It's all about gunplay and control right now, and he's waiting for it. Gets his spraying away, gets another knock, and the dance continues.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to day number 3 of week 1 of the ESL PUBG Masters America Grand Final. My name is Porosaurus, and I am going to be leading you through this crazy world of what we've seen so far through 2 days. Fortunately, I don't have to be the only one to sift through the rubble of expectations. I've brought with me Hypoc and Matrim to close out the week. Hypoc, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm excited for another night of PUBG action here. So a couple of games last night. We had some interesting end games. Hopefully a couple more banger kill counts.
And Matrim, you were on the cast yesterday, yeah? So you got your voice all rested up. You ready to go?
Dude, I needed that after some of the end games that we saw yesterday. That big fight, was it between Dignitas, TSM, and Fiumba was absolutely nuts. With the rain that we're getting right now, it's a little scratchy, but should be fine.
Yeah, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. Well, let's take a look at how we got here from all the way back there. We started off a couple of weeks back with the open qualifiers for both North America and Latin America, and we whittled it down all the way to the group stages last weekend where we determined who would be the top 16. And now we've gone 2 days through to determine who is going to take home the first of our 2 weeks of prize pools. Keep in mind that this week is one prize pool, next week is a second prize pool, and whoever wins the most out of both weeks will take home an additional $5,000 and will be declared the grand final champion of ESL PUBG Masters phase number 2. Now, that is not the only thing they are fighting for, Hypoc. In fact, they are fighting for something maybe even more valuable in PGC points.
Yeah, it's as always the long game, always a secondary objective here. Obviously with Sonics and TSM, I guess already building up a bit of a buffer, but there's definitely potential for a few other teams to make some progress this time around.
Yeah, Matrim, I know we were looking especially at the Latin American teams and seeing if they were going to make some moves here this week.
Well, that's one of the reasons we were talking so much about Troglodytes coming into this. With Enrage having what's going on with them right now, we thought Troglodytes, second most up with Latin America, were going to have the chance to just walk away and find themselves with an opportunity to go to PGC. But no, instead, we've got Fiumba and Akreshe just showing up in a big way. And I think this is kind of turning everything on its head when we look at Latin Americans' PGC points.
Yes, indeed. Well, right now we are sitting on a 4-way tie for first with 4 teams each having 2 wins apiece after 2 days. We've got a highlight package to show you how they got their gas cans. Hypoc, tell us about them.
Yeah, it started off strong yesterday on both those quarry circles, actually. Fighting tooth and nail to make it through the mid to late game transition, especially in game 2 with their literal uphill battle. They didn't manage to even get started on Miramar, though, which if we look at the teams surrounding them on the leaderboard, it could be a little concerning. Both Fiumba and Akreshe overperform massively on Miramar. If Gascans want to continue building on their positives, they have to look towards repeating some of these successes across both maps.
On the other side of that, we've got Oath. Oath has been doing a lot of homework, specifically on Latin America, and making some plays inside of the events that are going on over there. And that's translated to some very solid rotations. Not the highest gun power, but whenever they make it past Circle 7, they have a 100% win rate for those games with the 2 that they've managed to lock up. And you can see, it's all about making it into that stage for them.
And Akreshe opened up yesterday with a very comfortable win as well. Could argue on a silver platter, but again, you got to win the game, just set up to do so. As I previously mentioned, finishing strong on Miramar as well. Of the winners, they're also leading in kill count, which has been pretty visible in some of the games we've watched them not able to make that real push to the end game, or at least to that game-winning position we always talk about. But they have to be careful now, sharing their overall position now with 3 other teams in terms of the chicken dinners. Means they may have to reassess their approach coming into the final day of the weekend and maybe look towards securing more so.
Fiumba is the team that's really kind of taking me by surprise. I'll be honest, I was sleeping on them a little bit. I mean, they've got Emmy and Silson, who I'm familiar with, but these guys have been playing their hearts out, taking shots at anything that moves around them and translating that into in-game performances. When we look at it, we had a very hefty high kill game coming out from TSM and Dignitas, but they were the team that was the beneficiary from that, just making sure to play it smart, waiting and finding the moment to strike. And it feels like we've been seeing a lot of X Factor moments coming from them.
Now, speaking of those X factors, we've talked about our 4 teams that have the 2 wins apiece. Let's look a little bit further down the leaderboard. In 5th place, Sonics, sitting on a boatload of kills, but still haven't managed to get that win yet, Hypog.
No, I think the interesting thing, I actually started off yesterday considering obviously the day one performance, they were kind of getting towards that end game, and I'm not sure I saw the same performance yesterday. It didn't really look as if they were comfortable at all post circle 3 or 4 in terms of being able to make a real push towards that victory. And time and time again we talk about teams that are due a win. I don't feel like it was there from Sonics yesterday, and the big concern is seeing them move to that desperation phase, right? Because now we're looking at, I mean, 1 win, yeah, kill count leader, but it leaves them in 5th, right? So there's a big gap to fill here.
Well, Sonics might not deserve it, but let's be honest, H-Win has. He's been pulling out some pretty big plays of his own. I've been fairly impressed with that. That solo just wipe on Dodge yesterday was real solid.
That's H-Win, isn't it? I mean, that's Sonics in general. You can always count on at least one player from that team, usually 2, doing the big pop-off. Matt, wanted to touch real quick on TSM. You talked about the big game that they had, the 20-kill banger that they ended up losing in the end to Fiumba. But, I mean, you look at TSM, and that's a team, I'm looking at the stats, they have had a difficult time making it past Circle 5 pop with 4 up. It's, we've heard so many times about how getting 4 to the end is the important thing. TSM, it's just been a struggle.
And it's weird because they're usually like a late rotating team. We've seen some modifications on that where they're trying to rotate earlier. That's not working. Still trying to rotate late, having these issues. And it feels like it's just a mix-up of teams and a lot of third parties that are just happening around them at the time. And whenever we see them take a team fight on their terms, they have successes with those 20 kills that we saw in that game. But then whenever things kind of come awry and the plan starts to fall apart, we're not seeing the same quick reacting TSM that we're used to seeing.
And I guess finally we'll finish off with Dignitas, Mr. Hypog. I know we I guess you could say the same thing really about all 3 of these teams that we expected to do really well. But the mid game in particular has just been proving to be really, really difficult to get through.
Yeah, and I think again, it's difficult to really place on what's gone wrong. I mean, actually, Dignitas was their third place finish yesterday in the last game at least. And again, that's one that you could maybe say having a little more success in terms of repeatable successes. They've managed to get themselves into that position, but again, taking that clean, that one kind of crossroads decision where it comes to actually, do we dive bomb center if we haven't got a decent spot, or do we take an opportunity, team fight on the edge? And we obviously talking yesterday about Oath and how Kickstarter has in particularly been reflecting quite publicly on how things are developing in terms of the meta within this lobby. Dignitas is one that I think that unless they find that early success in terms of damage output or pressure output, or at least finding a position to be able to pressure into the next circle, we're not going to see them find that victory.
Well, as we have about a minute to go to get into game, Matt, I wanted to ask you real quick, do you think that one of our 4 top teams are going to be the one that takes it home, or can we expect one of our teams that are right on the edge there to make a run here late?
I don't know, man. Cresce's been scary, and if there's a team that can do it, I feel that they can pick up another chicken dinner today. The issue kind of leads into what we were talking about moving into everything beforehand while we were in the green room kind of talking about all this. Everybody's already sitting at 2 chicken dinners that's got 1. So that means any of these teams that are wanting to try to compete up at the top and maybe try to fight for first has to get 2 games out of 4 today. And man, that is going to be hard.
It's going to be difficult for sure. Well, we don't have to wait any longer to figure out how this thing is going to play out, because we are getting ready to get into game number 1, where we will throw it over to your favorite casters, Clover and Godspeed.
Ooh, favorite cast.
Favorite.
Right.
Wow.
I'm feeling it.
Okay. Well, Clover, it's been a while since you and I have casted together, so this should be pretty fun. We're set up today for 4 games, and you know what? I'm going to make a little bit of a bold prediction here. I think either Sonics or TSM will get 2 wins today.
You know, I'm thinking the same thing. I mean, you kind of talked about the guys. They were saying you really need a miracle, and amazingly enough, we've seen a couple of teams come through on that last day, get a hat trick, get those 2 wins. And wouldn't that really be the thing to shake things up? Because, I mean, as you heard the guys say, 4 teams, 2 wins apiece. And the interesting thing is that all 4 of those teams won on each map. So it's not really to say we're going to go into Erangel or Miramar stronger for one of these other teams. This still is anybody's chance today.
I agree. It is still very much anyone's chance. I mean, who knows? We may even see a team do a 3-peat, which, I mean, is obviously a little less likely, but it's just something to hope for. Obviously, the Sonics and TSM FTX, yes, they've been talked about. They're the teams that have been doing well for the most part as far as kills go, but obviously they haven't been able to find the chicken dinner. That being said, the adjustments being made, this is just 1 week of a 2-week event, right? So even if they aren't able to find any chicken dinners today in the last 4 games of the week, they have a completely new week next week as far as getting prize pool earned. And on top of that, if they can just find those dinners, they can even place towards the top 3. They can actually salvage this kind of chicken this week. But we'll have to see. You know,
I agree. And I think that's what we're going to see here today, especially as we kind of start off on Erangel. Now, traditionally, last day, Erangel, that's when we see Oath pop off. But Oath has been playing a little bit differently this week, and it's worked for them so far, getting them 2 chicken dinners, but we haven't really seen them rake in the kills.
They haven't. I mean, but look, they've been putting themselves in positions where they don't really have to go for much, and you know what? It is what it is, man. Like they've won the games that they needed to win, and so yeah, they're up with 2. I mean, looking at the way Oath even qualified for this, right? It was like the very last game. It was very cutthroat. So we'll have to see. I still have faith in Sonics in TSM FTX, but ultimately it's just up to the last 4 games of the day for the week. So I also think Dignitas. I really agreed with the points that were made on Dignitas as well, specifically coming out of Hypoc. So yeah, if they can just get something started and keep 4 left in the late game, you know, I think they'll be all right, because they showed a lot of promise, especially in the way they were team fighting on Miramar yesterday. Dignitas was incredibly impressive.
Yeah, I mean, really, I want to say that they've shown promise across all the maps. I mean, really, my eyes kind of fall back even to day 1 on Erangel, right? They had that last game fight, and Honey Badger did what Honey Badger does, and he kind of went a little overextended, tried to take off an outlier team, and unfortunately, Dignitas kind of opened themselves up to Oath, who took that very first win. But we've really seen that late game presence with Dignitas. So I think if they can just kind of clean up some of those decision makings at the end and maybe not make themselves that vulnerable, but with that said, this flight path, it's doing some favors for both Dignitas, Oath, and as well as a couple of our LATAM teams. We're actually seeing far more take a northern drop, gas cans going to their Zarki ult.
Yeah, we've actually also seen quite a few teams kind of using Severny when the plane path has not been great for them. I think Oath was there yesterday at some point. We've seen a few teams kind of just stretch up towards there. I'm a big fan of Zarki. I absolutely love that drop, considering I used it as well. I don't know. I love that city. You know, it's got a nice little beachfront property. It's got some pretty good loot up there. And this is a circle we actually haven't seen at all so far this ESL Masters. And that's going to be a Stalber circle potentially.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, we've seen some pretty wild circles coming out from the Stalber area. That northern waterfront usually tends to be playable for the first couple of phases, and so we'll see a lot of those teams try and get those hills and drive-bys. But back into Zarki, I mean, again, gas cans, they've been making some interesting decisions. We've talked to Adam a couple times in interviews. I'm be really interested to see if they can pull off another miracle today. On the flip side of that, Akreshe. I mean, we haven't really started talking to them about too much just yet today, but I mean, just the action that they have found themselves in all weekend long. This is such a different Akreshe than we've seen in previous ESL and PCS events, and I'm living for it right now. I think VizKing's just got some great leadership to this roster.
Yeah, ultimately, Akreshe has been playing like the dominant team that they've shown us. You know what I mean? Like, they've been incredibly strong in the team fights. They've been incredibly aggressive, actually, which is something that I love to see coming out of Akreshe, because I know in the past, I mean, even when I believe Sparking was on the roster in their first iteration, they seemed out of sorts. They weren't playing very aggressive. In fact, they were quite hesitant. That is the complete opposite of what we're seeing from Akreshe now. Specifically, even with the way that they've been taking late game positions, it's been a treat to be completely honest, to watch. And then Fumba as well. I mean, Fumba also has been coming in and been quite aggressive. I would say the last game that they won yesterday on Miramar was less so, but they also played that into their favor the way they should have, to be quite honest. There was no reason for them to get terribly aggressive onto the TSM FTX or the Dignitas fight. But Fumba has also been incredibly impressive over this event for me.
Yeah, you know, Shang Tsung here's seen put some good work in. Previously known as Capitan, he's changed his name a couple of different times, but a LATAM player that's been around the block, as well as Emmy and Silson, two players that I feel like, especially during PCS4, we were doing a lot of talking about in terms of strength and players that were constant with damage and kills across the board with LATAM. So the big thing for me that I think we're starting to see is that LATAM has stepped it up, especially when we're playing these online tournaments that, you know, can be difficult for a number of different situations for players. You know, maybe you're just distracted or more comfortable at home, but you've got, like we have here, we've got a little bit of a delay when we're talking to your teammates. We're trying to make sure everybody's getting in the game. It might just be a little bit different than when you're sitting next to somebody at LAN. And so with that in mind, it's really exciting to see the teams adapt so well to this. And I think as well, I mean, LATAM, when we just look at the survival stats there on the left, they've got such a strong presence right now. Yeah,
and I actually want to touch upon that as well. It is going to be very interesting to see some of these LATAM teams when we do go towards events that are more LAN focused, because it is completely different when you're sitting next to somebody and you're actually playing on LAN. Whether you have LAN jinners, where some players actually may be more comfortable on LAN because it's a more competitive setting. Some players may be less, less so confident because it may be their first LAN, and it's happened before where we've seen players kind of go on LAN. They're very good online, and for whatever reason they weren't able to adjust in their first event. So that is something I'm very much looking forward to. It's not necessarily something we're going to see very soon, hopefully in the future, but yeah, that's a good point to bring up.
Yeah, you know, kind of even falling back onto PGIS, which I think was the biggest LAN event that we've really had, obviously, in some time because of COVID, where players got to go play out in a bubble in South Korea, and it was a really good bonding experience for so many of them. And just the content, the camaraderie, the friendships between players across regions and teams, I think was such a good growing period for some of these teams. And watching LATAM and North America come out of that so much stronger has been rewarding, and I think another reason why we should expect the Americas region to continue to be competitive going into PGC, which is why we've continued to talk about PGC points and why these players are working so hard to get to that next event at the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm incredibly excited for PGC as well. And I think I wholeheartedly agree with the fact that our region has been getting very, very strong. Much more so, I think, than we have been in the past, at least internationally, right? Obviously, oh, wait, look at this. 22 is actually crashing on a 303 here. And this Alamo...
Tris, get out of there.
Survive.
14 HP, but he's not out of it just yet. You can see the bolties. Actually, it's me. DMR is out, and it is going to get a knock. Nice shooting there by Hasten, wasting no time to get that flush. But you can see the effort was put in by 303. Feiska actually is going to return some damage, but no knocks given. So 303, unfortunately, is going to have to play the rest of this first match out as a 3-man.
And that was a very bold crash. I mean, this early in Circle 1 to go for that Junkyard or Alamo compound. I mean, this is a very, very, I would say, popular compound, especially in this specific circle. But at the same time, I mean, 303 had somewhat of a risky split, only having one member down there. They had a very good position up at the warehouses, and now we're actually moving over to Team Veritas at the gas station here, and that nade's so close to taking Ethan down.
Veritas was really quick to rotate from that school location. He tried to get up north fast and got a bit too close to a Kretche, but you can see the throwables out right now in full force. A smoke wall coming out, but Ethan keeping that peak with the Scar L, waiting for a member of a Kretche to be shown. But you can actually see at a distance, it looks like Troglodytes might also be parting this. That pressure is going to mean Kretche is going to have to start making some tough decisions.
You want to talk about that early game aggression, though. I mean, just the aggression in general coming out from a Kretche. Again, this is Circle 1. This is a second sort of crash we've kind of seen, which goes to show you how important some of the positions are in this specific circle when it goes north. And quite a lot of this is open, as this King is now going for a little bit of a drive-by with someone on the back of his buggy, and they're full on pushing this.
Looks like Veritas now is completely out of that. And, you know, I mean, we had that 2-2 split for a Kretche, right? They kind of left two players anchored back, but as that shooting started to come out from Troglodytes, I think they didn't really have a choice but to join their comrades there in the gas station. But Veritas also made the smart decision. You know, they just came into this, they didn't have as much information, and they pulled out safely. They managed to get themselves another high-value compound for these circles. They tend to center themselves up on Stalber. But I say that, you can see right here, just south of the Stallbar Mountain, you still got all of the Yasnaya Fields, School, Razak, even Mansion into play. If this second phase shifts south at all, we might not get that Stallbar zone.
We may not, but the other really interesting to notice about this is the fact that because of the plane path, right? It was very much a northern plane path. It was fairly decent for teams on the south, obviously, as we see Young Kings down there, as well as Versus. But most of the teams actually decided to stay up here and loot around here, which is why you actually have, with still so much of the early phase left, every team is in the circle, all but 3. And none of these teams are really going to move either, Clover. I mean, this is pretty much going to be what we're looking at for the remainder of this first phase.
Yeah, I think unless we have just a dramatic shift in the phase 2 or 3, we should be able to have some kind of slow going and long range fighting, as you can see right here between Fiumba and Dignitas. They're just kind of laying into each other. I actually think Silson's got a DP28, so interesting start for this, I guess. You know, at the same time, I mean, if you're kind of in this situation, maybe Fiumba not fully happy with the loot that you've got and you're getting pressure from Dignitas, you're gonna be stuck up here at least until that next phase moves and you kind of have an idea of where you can go. So I do like this for Fiumba, you know, making sure Dignitas doesn't encroach too close to Stallbar, but you gotta also kind of wonder, like, what is Dignitas's play coming in from this angle? Looks like they're actually starting to wrap a little.
Yeah, and Dig, I mean, we've seen early from them before where they will try to take early aggressive off angles and try to really put a lot of pressure on team. But at the same time, as much as I actually really love seeing how proactive Dig is, sometimes they get a little too ahead of themselves. And because of that, they'll lose. Like Honey Badger or like another member trying to do something in the vein of pushing or bullying off a team. So we'll have to watch and see if that happens. I imagine they're going to be pretty measured. Again, this is just Circle 1, and they have a pretty strong position. So I don't imagine Dig would get incredibly aggressive, but I mean, you never know with that team sometimes. Oh, and the shots.
We've been talking aggression and a Kreche all day, and you saw earlier, actually nade thrown from that hillside did manage to get a knock onto Kreche. They recovered, but you can see right now, actually returns. Now the push coming onto Troglodytes. That circle actually is going to shift down towards Yasnaya. And so it might shake things up just a bit for the teams that went a little too far north. You can see Kreche wasting right now no time onto this.
I love this. I mean, that was a knock. They really don't have a lot of information, but they're still getting aggressive on this. Knowing that Trog was close, knowing that they're probably going to go for that res, they could set a trap here and potentially stop them from moving, and it looks like that's what they're going to do. 2 members now stuck in the dip.
It was great positioning by Visking to catch them as they came out of the smoke. Did manage to get 1 knock, but you saw had to lie prone to avoid that return fire coming back out, but still a couple members up. Able to lay back into this and some spray and pray by Vis. Just hoping to get something from that.
Really pray, yeah, because that crosshair went wild high. I mean, I don't even think he knew where it was, but to be fair, he was also inside of smoke. But even still, Kreche is not letting up after losing a member flat out.
Exec's just laying into Kish's helmet right now, and you can see they are not letting go from this at all. LFP actually holding the nastiest angle right there onto Exec's tree. So if that peek comes a second time, we might see a second knock out of this. But right there, Viz going wide. Looks like he was spotted by Kill Demo. Throwables are out, but you can see, I mean, they've really spread themselves thin here.
The other thing about this fight that I find actually kind of interesting is the fact that neither of these teams are in the circle, but both of these teams are in first and second. I wonder if this is a conscious decision from Kreche to try to get rid of Fiumba early to even deny them a chance of getting a third dinner and jumping up ahead. Because, I mean, there's...
Guys, we do got the picture-in-picture. A couple of teams fighting inside Yasnaya as they try to get as center as possible, which is going to be that city center finish. But back to this fight with the Kreche. 2 members down,
wild.
Just Kish up. A drive-by actually was pretty successful here from Troglodytes, but Exec's still up and standing. He's been such a thorn in their side.
I mean, again, the aggression here is just... I like it, but it's very surprising this early in Circle 2 now, which they're not even in. That was a very hard shift. I'm sure they saw that, but they're still committing to this fight, and Trog actually doing a great job of defending against this push on Kreche, considering they were actually a member down, and Kreche was the one with the advantage. They're actually gone. That's it, Troglodytes.
Kreche will pick up a couple of kills from this first match, holding them right now in first place for the leaderboard. Again, tied with 2 wins with 3 other teams. But, I mean, as you say, Troglodytes finally getting something to show for it. Meanwhile, back inside Yasnaya, 303 and Sonics off to their east as well is going to be dodged. No chance. So it's a little bit packed and crowded here in the city.
Yep, and most teams have decided to send it into the city. Obviously, Yasnaya is big enough to support quite a few teams, but I actually like what Fumba and a few of the other teams like SSG are doing. I think we've talked about this before on broadcast many times. It's generally easier to get into a city than it is getting out, especially if it's packed, right? Especially a city like Yasnaya. We've seen it before with like Los Leones, where teams struggle to get out once Circle shifts out of it. They get held out. So that may be the case here, but I mean, it's just Circle 2, so nothing is set in stone yet.
I mean, it's a good point as well. And you can see so many teams right now holding on to their vehicles because there's that big southern open area field south of Yasnaya where we've seen that circle go into the late game. So as you say, if a lot of teams get into the city and that circle shifts away, it could spell trouble for them. So for the teams that are either holding on to the edge, holding on to the high ground like we saw there with Fiumba, that could be better for them depending on where this next circle shifts. And it's still centering on Yasnaya. We're going to lose most of that southern field, but there's still all that open area north of the city. So great placement there for Fiumba. And you can see Veritas even doing a little bit of a wrap there on the east side.
Yeah, you want to talk about a wrap? Look at gas cans. They started at Zarki. They then rotated all the way south down towards the bottom half of the circle on that second shift to try to get something where they could, again, play on the outside of that and just check where the circle's going to pop. And then it popped, and now they're going back up towards the north. So Gascan's definitely putting in those driving stats for the leaderboards. They're going to be all over the place as far as travel.
I'll be curious to know at the end of this weekend who has driven the most.
I think it actually right now is Gascans.
Well, speaking of driving, TSM FTX, Penta going right through the city, but taking on a lot of fire, down to 20 HP, but is going to get knocked. Great shooting by Vegas, and that is now 2.5 members down. Only one still up for TSM, but back out in the south, 3 different teams picking the same dip. It is not free.
No, it's not free at all, and I'm going to be completely honest, the team that I really was talking about quite a bit that I was excited to watch was actually 303, and it's to say it's been rough would be an understatement so far. I mean, this is now day 3 and they have 12 kills and no dinners.
Oof. I mean, you said it earlier, right? Shake it off, come back next week a little bit more prepared, figure out what didn't work for you this time and go again. Or
they still have 3 games.
You know, I mean, yeah, you still have 3 games. You can make something happen. I mean, we saw what TSM had a 20-kill game yesterday, so anything's possible.
And there's still 2 up, so it's not over. It's just as it stands, 303 has been a little lackluster, and it's actually I believe oh, shots! Wait a second, Biznaga.
Oh, Biznaga actually is going to go ahead and focus, get that flush out before he gets the res onto Vinny, but you can see Shinboy sending it, trying to see if he can find an angle, maybe retaliate here with this drive-by. Good shooting out with the barrel. It's going to land some damage, but Biznaga still up, and you can see Shinboy now in throwable range, and Balefrost actually getting the knock. This could be a flush, picking up 2 more kills here for Dignitas. There you go. 22 is eliminated.
And speaking of Dignitas, I believe they're actually the team with the... they've driven the furthest. It's Gas in 2nd place, so shout out to Luke for those.
Yeah, you know, I mean, gas cans, their names, come on, guys.
I mean, it's kind of in the name, yeah. But so far, early start Dig with 4 kills. That's what we love to see. This team is definitely not riding the struggle bus as far as aggressive kills or pushing teams early. And so they are going to lose 1, but for a wipe, that's not bad. And they actually have a good position here that can kind of play on the outside, on the south side of the circle, take their time, see where the shifts. And if they want, they even have a potential decent rotation on the east, depending on what Oath does. But this... oh man, this could potentially be a field ending, and that's going to be very rough for the teams that are currently sitting in Yasnaya.
Yeah, I mean, Dignitas kind of has the decision. They can sit here and play just that little bit of a dip that's just barely in the zone, or they can take their vehicles and try and restructure. But the running the problem right now is that there's so many teams in TS9, and we've seen for some of those ones that have tried to drive in a little bit late, hasn't quite worked well in their favor. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they get in a zone. Gas cans far on the edge, but they're coming in slow, and you know, there's been time and time again I've seen them at this phase 4, at phase 5. They got a big open area between them. They managed to get in the zone safely, so we'll see if Gas Cans can pull it off. Shinboy and the rest of Dignitas are actually going to opt for a building just on the edge of town.
Yeah, and speaking of the gas cans, as we watch Dodge trying to hold down Tig, or at least be a thorn in their side. Wait, Troglodytes is actually rotating in as well. Although not in the exact same spot, they're going to be in the open. These little waves are a pretty decent spot. The only problem for them right now is the fact that the north is occupied by Fiumba, and they do have line of sight, on top of the fact that so does Oath, and I'm pretty sure every other team right now. So if they can just weather this storm and survive, they're not necessarily in grenade range, they might be okay.
I think Fiumba right now is going for that vehicle explosion.
Yep.
So Rusty Zero did lie prone for a sec, try to avoid that damage, but you can just see even at range, everybody's taking shots, and 1 or 2 vehicle explosions, that might be it for Troglodytes. But TSM down to just Luke 12 does have a bit of a vantage point up here in the apartments. You can see really surrounded by not only a number of teams, but a number of players from the Sonics.
Yep, Sonics in the apartments just right next to him, and Luke, being the last surviving memory of a crash, I believe TSM FTX was trying to come into Yaz, but they got shredded. So, I mean, he's still alive. And if this is a city, I mean, Luke could potentially do a lot of damage. Obviously, use the buildings and the various rooms, especially in apartments, that kind of be a thorn in any team's side, similar to the way that we saw the smoke plays happen from Hwin yesterday against Dodge. So it's still very possible for Luke to make something happen here.
You see Veritas attempted a drive-by, but actually did lose Lobes in the process. Snakers and Kickstart stealing that one out, but SSG keeping that pressure on. You can see Uncivil getting some shots there into Ethan and JR. Only one still up and standing. So Veritas not looking so hot right now, but you can see Uncivil and Sharpshot, until they deal with this threat on the edge, they can't really leave this compound either.
No, they really can't. And Veritas, though, in a very precarious position now, as indeed it is just JR standing, and I don't really think he has much of a play here, especially because it looks like Space Station knows exactly where he is, and I do like that Civ and Sharp are potentially going, yes, they're going to finish this first. Oh, wait a second.
Oh, that was so close, and you can see Sharpshot actually is taking a lot of damage, is going to get taken out. Fiumba, DraftKing had line of sight on this, so SSG pushed out to deal with the threat of JR, but now down to just Uncivil.
And that is unfortunate, because I was just about to say I like the fact that the duo was going to make sure they clear out the last member first and then get the rest, but they didn't even get the chance. It's just Civ now. And look at this, the circle has shifted even further away from him, so SSG finding themselves in even more trouble before the halfway point of this game, yet again.
I mean, it's looking more and more likely, as you predicted, that this could be a Yasnaya City finish. So good for a couple of those teams right now that are a little bit fractured and stuck inside the city. But see if that is going to finally put the pressure on Fiumba to come down from that high ground vantage point where they've had line of sight on teams like Troglodytes, on SSG. They're still trying to play the edge here, but I mean, this is a risky play. They're so vulnerable to all those players right now with those windows, with the apartments, Sonics especially.
And Sonics really have not had to move. Oath, here they come. Cut out of the circle. They do have some options here, whether they want to play one of these these telephone poles or actually just send it straight into the apartments, which it looks like they're doing. But Snaker's vehicle was stopped.
I don't think they were anticipating Fiumba to have been there just yet. You can see they're actually going to lose Relo and Balefrost. Snaker's getting really low, is going to fall there in the end. So only Kickstart was able to get inside safely. Again, we talked about how scary those windows are going to be, the teams in the apartment. Luke is going to fall here, but Oath lost 3 in that transition.
That's very surprising, actually, because I'm pretty sure Luke was on the last level and he really only had one kind of area to worry about, but he was distracted by something. That's very unfortunate. And as far as Oath coming in that way, I was almost positive they'd taken at least a shot or two at Trog before, so that was a very risky rotation, but at least, you know, they got one in.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you had Sonics in the apartments, Troglodytes right there in the dip, and Fiumba to the fence just beside that. And so driving in, you could see initially Oath was, I think, going for Fiumba's position, read the situation, tried to pull away, but just made them really vulnerable to those windows that Sonics happened sitting in, keeping a watchful eye on the north. As you can see on Civil right now, actually taking on some damage. Looks like this fighting might be coming from Fiumba. So with those tires popped, though, he's going to have to take the rest of this potentially on foot, maybe risk driving a tireless vehicle.
I mean, honestly, that UAZ may be his best option, because there's really not a lot of cover for him to use at all. And meanwhile, just south of Troglodytes on this kind of ridge leading up to the apartments, I mean, Dig finds himself still 2 up, and now potentially holding out members of Dodge, who will probably have to move after this shift here in about 10 seconds. Question is where does Dodge want to go?
Oof. You know, I mean, if this shifts anything north or northeast, that is going to be so hard for these players. And ooh,
there it is.
Still hanging on to the north. So you can see we've got a couple of those complex. Fiumba and Good Spirits. Sonics don't have to move. Gas Cans, especially in a good spot. But now for all those teams to the south, that's really going to condense them up.
We got... When it comes to Gas Cans, I feel like we take a look at them. We know where they are on the map, right? Like 2 circles ago, we knew exactly where they were. We knew they were going to have to make some moves to rotate in. But every time we get to like a phase 5 or phase 6 situation, Gas Cans just magically appears in a very good spot in the circle. And hats off to them, man. I mean, that's definitely a lot of preparation and getting as much information as possible, scouting, you know, taking their time. And that's kind of, I think, the benefit that Gas Cans has been able to really explore for themselves is taking their time. Yes, they sit out in the blue sometimes. Yes, their rotations are a little slow, but because of that, they're able to really assess what's going on in the circle and make the best informed decision, which is why we've been seeing them so much in the late game.
Yeah, we have, but not taking time right now is Dodge, who tried to full send it. A nade was out, though, and it looks like all of them, except for Vegas, did get knocked in this transition. So Dignitas is going to fall. Vegas should have some time to try and recover, but there wasn't enough to get that res onto Hella Senpai. See, no chance. Actually, this also not wasting any time. Just Balkan and Rizola. The throwables coming back out in force as they try to see if they can spot Vegas out. Ooh, just bouncing past him, but that flashbang's going to hit. We'll see how this trade continues.
Vegas in very much a rough spot. Still very possible for him to win this 2v1 if he can get a single. No, not even a chance. Balkan was so ready for that.
Oh, but look at this. Troglodytes actually has been slowly creeping up on this, and I'm not quite sure if No Chance has read this yet. Rusty Zera just barely out of line of sight. So he might be able to get a surprise knock on a Balkan.
Yeah, and I like this aggression from Trog because they still are in on the just barely on the north side there in that dip. And so if they can just get rid of a team below them early, which they might not even have to because it looks like No Chance is rotating further south and going towards the southwest, that they can kind of take control of this side. And they actually have a tower to play just ahead of them if the circle does shift one more time away from them, which it most likely will.
Uncivil was spotted out by Greg Stutz. The space station finds themselves eliminated, but actually check this out. No Chance made themselves a little visible here too. Oath, kickstart, getting that knock on Balkan, trying to get that flushed out with throwables, both a nade and a Molotov to follow, but Rizola just barely inching himself away from this as there we go, the flush onto Balkan.
And he's just trying to find Rizola so much right now. And again, as a solo, I mean, the good thing here is any kills that Kit can get are phenomenal for Oath because of the fact that they have wins, right? So all these kills, even as a solo, it's not as detrimental as, let's say, No Chance, right? No wins whatsoever. And only 14 kills to have anyways. Even if he's able to grab like a few here, sure, it'll help, but not as much as Kick. So anything Kick can get as far as a flush or two is going to be very beneficial for Oath.
Yeah, I mean, you can even see just there on the left, Fiumba, Gas Cans, Oath, Sonics, 3 of the teams that have 2 wins still up alive. Sonics with 3 players up don't have that win yet. You know that's got to be forefront on their mind right now. Take this one slow. Can they manage to get a chicken dinner out of it? But as the circle continues to kind of creep away from their apartments, they've got to make these decisions very, very carefully, especially with so many players kind of condensed what's left of the towns down to their south.
And Young King's still 4 up, by the way. There goes No Chance. So Kick, he's going to find another kill. Not bad at all as Young Kings try to make a desperate dash through these smokes to the tower. They're not even going to make it. Gas Cans.
Absolute denial there.
But Gas Cans in a little bit of a pickle as well, considering they're not in. And I will say, pushing to the apartments, especially with the way Sonics is set up, they know Gas Cans is here. From those double priorities is going to be a tall task. I mean, look at these angles.
Great angles, and they still got plenty of throwables. Shrimsy, Mime, they've got nades, they've got Molotovs, they've got anything that they really can. So if Gas Cans were just push up on the outside of their window, a couple underhand throwables, and that could be it for them too, as we've really seen any team that's kind of approached the Sonics has not fared well this match.
No, no, they really haven't. Aside from just losing Hwin as well. I say just, I mean, losing Hwin, losing any members of Sonics is not ideal, but they're still 3 up and they still are in a very good position in the circle. They are going to have to fight forward after this, but Gas Cans, look at this.
A valiant effort. They're going to lose Adam early. Silzen actually picks up a second one, finds the flush immediately. Greg shot with the nade out. Barrel for the drive-by. Does run one over, but can he recover? Hikerman goes down.
Shot, no. Greg shot in the heat of the moment, in the confusion with the smokes, actually knocked Hikerman. I think he was trying to get Silzen, and now he's going to step into the fire, which is not good. Oh, I think he's dead. No, he survives.
Oh my god, if he can recover from this. I mean, you can see even Troglodytas went in on this. Nades are coming out. Necro see what he can do. And actually, no, he's going to help him out. Take 2 members of Fiumba here.
And that's Greg Shot's cue to start to go for the res. Troglodytas choosing an amazing time to spring out and start to get aggressive on this. And that's actually the reason why even the gas cans couldn't get even more aggressive, or Fiumba couldn't push up. But Greg has to be careful.
Gas cans are now back up to 2 players strong, and Greg Shot, Hikerman, both with throwables. You can see right now trying to deal with Fiumba. This is their biggest, closest threat right now. And if between them and Troglodytas could clear that out, that could make this so much easier in their favor. Again, that zone really centered up on their position.
Troglodytas, though, is starting to show more signs of life, at least so far in the first game today, than they have, to be honest, this entire weekend so far. And that's exactly what we want to see from these guys. The aggression, this split, even with Rusty Zero in that apartment, it's definitely not greedy, because he's more or less an insurance policy, right? Execs stacked on Necro could potentially get naded. At the very least, he'll be alive. So this is what we want to see from Trog.
You can see Kickstart, the last player still up from Oath, was able to get some damage there into Sonic. So Throwable just went too far onto Fiumba, who has been able to recover. Still 3 up at Emmy. Now trying to avoid some of that damage from the Molotovs. All players, though, lying low, waiting for a peek from gas cans. See if they can get a knock. They're starting to run out of utility, though, as the circle getting ready to close now. 40 seconds till the blue finishes up and is going to take the rest of these buildings out. So Kickstart's now or never versus Sonics. You can see that nade. Nowhere to go. He's just going to have to hang this one in the blue. Not even going to try to escape.
No, he's just going to try to, at this point, just kind of spoil for Sonics, but it's not going to happen. Kick's going to go down to the blue, and now here comes Trog fighting with Fiumba. Let's look at Drift King. He's so close. Beautiful.
Oh, that was so risky, but gas cans being eliminated now gives him another angle to play on. But look at this. Sonics
this is huge.
wanted
yes.
this position.
This is huge for Sonics now. This fight was able to give Sonics enough time to safely smoke out, get the position that they wanted, and now they're no longer trapped within the apartments. In fact, they're in a position to be the aggressors if they can just make it potentially to that radio tower. This would be huge.
You talked about insurance policies with Rusty Zera. Look at that position he's got for the Troglodytas, and he's been relatively quiet. Or as I say that until right now, as he tries to bait some shots, but with that smoke wall depleting, that nade, could it be enough? If he could just get an opening knock here on a member of the Sonics, actually, it's going to be Shang Tsung that gets Tiggleton down. Mine, though, trades it back out.
This is big. The fact that they made it here is huge. Tig most likely won't be able to get res as he's crawling without any smoke cover, and I don't know if they have many smokes left after that, but at the very least they have 2, which is more than enough for the Sonics.
Troglodytas and Sonics, both teams without a chicken dinner yet on the board. Sonics right now, 57 kills. Troglodytas, 25. Whoever wins this one will go into 5th place. Either Sonics holding their position or Troglodytas jumping them.
And Rusty doing such a good job of just providing a really awful angle for Sonics as far as what they want to deal with, as well as the fact that Troglodytas currently has center circle. I mean, this is going to be very tough for the Sonics, but I refuse to count them out.
I mean, even Exec's a little vulnerable in that position, but if Rusty Zera can stay healthy in that spot, it does find the knock onto Mime. It's all down to Shrimzy now. There's no time for the res to come out. He's just got to take on this 1v3. We've seen him do it before, though. Can he do it again? Finds one. Necro goes down.
Okay. Shrimzy's still in it. Oh,
he gets
holy! Oh my goodness.
Oh.
That was almost the game.
Shrimzy managed to get 2 out of 3 for Troglodytas, but it wasn't meant to be there. At the very end, they pick up that final kill versus the Sonics, denying them once again a chicken dinner, and Troglodytas finally on the board.
I'm trying to not let my bias show, but that's a heartbreaker, man. Shrimzy that was a disgusting second little little bursts. Oh, man, but Troglodytes, you have to give it to him. The way they came in, I called early that was a very rough spot for them to be in, but if they could survive, they would most likely be in a very good position for the coming circles, and that's exactly what they did. Not only did they survive, Clover, but they actually were able to pick up some kills as well. It was not a passive game from Troglodytes at all.
No, I mean, I think at the very beginning of the tournament on Friday, we really hyped up Troglodytes on a team to watch. Coming out of LATAM, they were leading in the group stages for all the Latin America teams, and we were really expecting them to bring a bigger show. So to see them come out strong today, it's very exciting. Couldn't they get a second chicken dinner, start to tie themselves up on the board? Or Sonics, I mean, as you say, Shrimsy has just been on fire for this roster, and it's been really exciting to see.
I mean, all of them have been on fire for the roster, but yeah, Shrimsy in particular, it seems like he always comes up with the clutch when he absolutely has to. He almost had it there. The blue to his back, I mean, yeah, it was a rough angle as well. The last member of Trog was doing a great job not to show too much of himself as well, but I mean, this was kind of a wild game for how kind of stale and obviously setup heavy it was in the first circle or two. Once that shift started happening, everyone had to move. And yeah, this is where Trog actually came in here early and they were in a lot of trouble, but they were able to weather the storm. And after that, put quite a lot of pressure on the teams around them.
I mean, I was almost ready to discount Troglodytes for that position because it seemed like such a high risk. And I mean,
I heard.
As we saw for so many teams like Space Station, like Veritas, for some of those players that kind of fought in those awkward positions, it didn't really work out well for them. But Troglodytes held strong. They managed to keep recovering. They kept up 3 to the late game, and it worked well for them. But so many failed drive-bys this game. So much city infighting that just did not work well for teams.
Not at all, but I mean, even giving a shout out to Kick there, even with only one member up for a majority of the last half of that game, was able to get at least 5 or 6 kills. So shout out to them. They need those kills, especially with their 2 chicken dinners. And Sonics, I mean, they did so much damage to the teams around them. And even pushing out when they did, the timing was perfect. But Trog, again, with the setup, Rusty Zero being on a very good off angle for them as well. They just did work, and Fiumba even tried. I mean, I really like the ideas coming out of Fiumba as far as the way they tried to aggress there and the position they were holding, but ultimately, yeah, they got sandwiched, and it just came down to this. And
yeah,
man,
I mean, we really,
game.
Gas Cans and Fiumba, right? We give credit where credit is due for this whole weekend. They've really made plays to find themselves in good positions later in the game. And although obviously we didn't see them come out with too much on top from this match, I think that it's safe to say that they've got something figured out on how to keep getting themselves up in the late game, which is why we have 2 kills each for one of those teams. But as you saw that heartbreaking play now from a different angle there, Rusty Zero was actually very low, so Shrimsy almost got him.
Shrimsy almost just 1v3 clutched that, and that was really wild. But Troglodytes, again, they deserve the praise. They're starting just in the first game. This is what we were talking about, right? Their aggression, the fact that they do make good decisions as far as the rotations. That one was a little risky simply because of the fact that dip is, you know, it's dangerous. They were also getting shot by like 3 or 4 different teams. But overall, Trog getting the dinner, they deserve that one for sure. And then Sonic's heartbreaker, but getting another 8 kills. I mean, Sonic's is just continuing to push their kill count forward.
Yeah, which, I mean, again, just goes to show that another kill, another chicken dinner or 2 for them, and it's going to be a huge shakeup on the leaderboard. But we've still got a couple more games to go, a couple more chances for Sonics to potentially come out, get that chicken dinner. I mean, they have been no stranger to the late game, so it's really just a matter of time.
I think it is a matter of time, and to be completely honest, I'm still sticking with my prediction. Clover, I'm sticking with the prediction. They're going to get 2 wins, and those are, I think it's going to happen.
I think it is too. And with that, guys, we are going to go ahead and throw it a break. We'll be right back with game number 2 and some words from the analyst desk to see what they had to say about that match.
I'm Jake from Oath Gaming. I go by Snakers, and I'm from New Jersey.
Meu nome é Alan, meu nickname é Trisk e eu sou de Montes Claros, sou do Brasil, Minas Gerais.
Hi, my name is Daniel Guerra. I go by Danny G in game. I play for Team Veritas. I would consider my hometown to be Miami.
I think one of the biggest changes to the meta is the fact that South American teams do a lot of things that are unexpected.
They're kind of unpredictable sometimes. I noticed that they like to 4-man sit in a compound compared to some of the NA teams where instead of being too safe, they're too aggressive and they spread out a lot on the map.
But overall, those 8 teams are just as good or better than the other 8 North American teams that would normally be in these events.
O estilo da nossa equipe, eu acredito que seja mais um mescla entre os dois, de agressivo e defensivo, porque o meta de hoje em dia não deixa tu escolher um ou outro como era no meta anterior.
My team's playstyle is definitely to take as much space as we can, kill whoever we can around us to like just control area, and usually try to keep 4 up until late game and just close games out.
So my role on the team is IGL. Lobes and JR are somewhat like co-IGL. They help out a lot with the calls. And my role out of game, I like to VOD review a lot. I watch a lot of Twires from every region, especially people looting out of our drop spots, and they give me ideas for certain circles.
My role on the team is kind of just to kill as many people as I can, and I've always like run around, gotten off angles, doing whatever I can late game to try to help us win, try to make the best calls for my team. And out of game, I don't have that much of a role because I'm not good at being positive, but you know, I try my best.
Just jumped out the plane, don't matter what we landed, cause I'm about to bring pain. You don't wanna push me, John Wick with the aim. Told my girl that I'm asleep, but I'm really on the game. Real talk, I put my all in this. This the only game I play, man, it's obvious. Treat this game like it's really a sport. About to put your boy on the PUBG report.
Oh, he did! You absolute mad lad!
It's pans, crossbows, and explosive.
You want to see that? Let's go.
Oh yeah! Let's get you leveled up. Damn, my setup sucks.
I did my time, or so I thought.
Kill, survive, and run.
Now it's your turn to hide.
Hello, everybody. We are back once again after our first game of the weekend, and we have an interview with the winner of that first game from Chocolatitos. This is Mr. Rusty Zera. It has taken 2 days, but you finally got that win. You got to be feeling pretty good, huh?
Yeah, we are definitely feeling much better now.
I know you had a couple of questions you wanted to ask.
Yeah, really. I just wanted to know kind of when the call came to kind of change direction there, because there was a point where obviously you guys were looking to hold Sonics on that cross, and then it kind of became a let's sit and wait for them to make a move. So I'm just interested to know about the decision making there.
Yeah, I thought that I wouldn't be able to cross, so I was trying like to do a lot of damage to Sonics, but Qdemo was dead and was always telling me like, let Sonics play and screw the other team. So I just threw my nades, and I was happy that I could make the cross and help my teammates. And we almost threw at the end, but I'm happy we got the win.
All right, I've got to ask the question that's on everybody's mind, okay? We came into this talking up Trogloditas, knowing the fact that you guys are on the hunt for some PGC points. Where you guys been the past 2 days?
I think our biggest problem was a lot of games we died a lot at the early game, so we were struggling to stay as far, and when we had to fight, we were like always down. And we didn't have enough people to spread around and get their info. we like to do, and some mistakes as well, of course. But how the leaderboard was, like, we knew we only need a win to be top 5. I think we are top 5 right now.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much up. If we win another game, we can get a few more positions. But we're gonna need some kills because we were lacking some kills in the first 2 days, but we are in a good position now.
I got faith. I believe in you guys. Make the Latin American PGC hunt super spicy because I want to see it.
Okay.
Well, just one game at a time, but hopping from 13th to 5th in one game, not too bad for one game's work. Congratulations again on the victory. We'll let you get going and get ready for that next game. Any shout outs that you wanted to give before we let you go?
Shout out to everyone that is cheering for us on the stream, and shout out to my mom as well.
Love to hear it. There you go. You got to make sure you get that base covered. All right, man. Go get ready for game number 2, and we'll maybe see you again here.
I hope so.
Well, not a bad game number 1. Chocolatitas, Clover was talking about it. We had big expectations coming into this tournament for that team, and it's been a little bit of a slow start, but that is a very well earned 10 kill win there, Hypoc.
It is, yeah, a difficult circle to really find any, I guess, comfort in the late game there. And they did up until, like I said, I was asking the questions. I was genuinely curious, really. There's kind of that crossroads when we talk about these sorts of decisions where it's, let's stop everyone from making it to the end game, where it moves to, actually, the circle's going to decide this one for us. And, I mean, actually, Rusty being a little hard on themselves, honestly, because there wasn't nearly a throw. It was nearly Shrimsy absolutely turning that round on his head.
Yeah, it's there's definitely a fine line between throw and just seeing another player have just a unreal individual performance, right, man? I mean, look, hey, we've been kind of picking on Sonic, not picking on, but just been very aware that Sonics has kind of been sitting down there in that 6th place spot with 58 kills. That one almost looked like it, man. That
no
almost
laptop on the
like
line. Shrimsy didn't have to clutch that one, right? Is that the way the rules for this work?
Didn't have the laptop, yeah.
Doesn't have the laptop in play, but boy, you can see that Sonics right now are really craving to try to get that chicken dinner and win for it. Trogloditas, though, strong performance, making sure to hold it up. The number of kills right there and the damage is a telltale sign, but you can see Trogloditas. Hey, this is the sign of life. They are firmly committed and aware of the mistakes that they made. You heard he had a laundry list of things that he was like, this was what was wrong, and it seems like they have tackled them all and are now coming in with much more knowledge and much more comfort in today's games.
And they definitely look real strong. Anything else that kind of stick out to you from that game, Hypoc?
Not particularly, no. I mean, I want to come back to something I was talking about yesterday again, which is the number of teams we see kind of hit that step change, and especially, when you get, obviously yesterday when we reached our halfway point, we started talking about this. The teams that haven't got that win up yet, it kind of exacerbates as it goes on, right? It becomes more and more extreme of how much they don't want to take risks throughout the mid game. Maybe this could be the turning point here for Trogloditas. I mean, they already mentioned the kill count being a concern now, but again, potentially now winding their sails, they can play a little more aggressively, maybe, look to take a little more space and maybe punish some of these teams that are still kind of in that mindset of, we haven't got to win yet. We've got to play to survive, right? I always think back to an interview with Batulins actually a couple of events ago where it's like, it's very easy to walk around killing teams that are just trying to survive. When you guys don't have to worry about that, you've got a secondary objective, which is to just make it through. That could be a really, really big, I guess, enabling factor for some of these teams.
Yeah, just talk about relieving that pressure a little bit, right? And that's kind of the way to get that snowball rolling. I mean, Matt, he's talked about focus on kills. Kills aren't everything, though. Just ask Oath.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big factor. And we look at the last circle, man. That's a mean last circle to try to get a chicken dinner off of. Anybody that's ever played PUBG knows trying to leave that northern Yasnaya area into that no man's land is rough. I mean, hell, just ask Young Kings. They tried to make that cross, and it did not work out for them. I think it was Fiumba, if I remember, that was holding down that originally, and you just saw a nice little dance of teams trying to assault that area. And I just give massive respect to every single team that at least managed to make it into that in circle, because, God, that is harsh.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be real. For once, I'm stealing your turn of phrase there, but for once, we got to see Sonics in that late game, in that kind of run. But again, Fiumba, gas cans. At a certain point, you got to start looking at them and being like, okay, well, they're constantly ending up in the end game with 4 up. Maybe it's not just sitting on luck, Hypoc.
No, it isn't. And again, I mean, I said this probably 25 times. Obviously, the term repeatable successes, right? If you're going to get to late game and you're going to keep bodies up, then, more often than not, it's going to be that 1 in 4 games where the stars align and you're able to convert. But you got to get there in order to be able to achieve that.
I want to follow up on something you were talking about a second ago, Hypoc, and that stress of trying to get that chicken dinner. And even if you keep 4 up, realizing, hey, we have got to win this game. We have got to win this firefight adds in a new level of intensity and a new level of just nerves into that firefight. So even if you're a strong team like Sonics, sometimes it can be scary.
Yeah, the stress starting to mount here for some of these teams. We'll see how they react here as we head into game number 2 with your casters, Godspeed and Clover.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you heard it.
Here we are.
Stress, right? Stress. Going into that
goodness.
final fight, going into games like that. I did it. It happened to me. I finally did it.
I've done it too. It's okay. Anyways, what were you saying?
No, I mean, just to kind of mirror back on to what the guys said, stressed, especially when it comes down to the last game, to the last fights, Shrimzy, I mean, that 1v3, we know Shrimzy is a player that can handle those high stress situations, but It had to be heartbreaking not coming out for a win like that. Do you think the Sonics take that momentum through this next match, through the rest of the day, and start finding those back-to-back wins that we've been kind of hoping for?
I mean, I'm sticking to my guns. I think they're at least still going to win 1 game here today. That being said, it's really tough, and I agree. I don't think that was a throw. Rusty said we almost threw that game. I don't think that was a throw at all. It was just Shrimzy hitting some really disgusting shots. That being said, I also really like Kill Demo's advice. I mean, you heard Rusty's here on that interview saying he wanted to just kind of prevent Sonics from crossing and kind of be a thorn in their side, which potentially would have put him in a lot of trouble because he was solo in that off angle, right? Instead, Kill Demo's like, no, listen, chill out, let Sonics play, which was absolutely the right call. They let Sonics play, they let him push up to that position, and then once they got there, they pretty much just dismantled them. So I really love those type of comms coming out from players and teams, especially when they were talking about it, and clearly Rusty wanted to make some sort of play, but it just wasn't the time and place. And ultimately, it's crazy, but it's little decisions like that which change the course of a game completely, right? Rusty could have just gone down there after going for a spray, and then that would have been it. The game would have been over. Sonics would have been able to get like a nice little 2-on-2 or even a 3-on-2.
I mean, Rusty kind of had that off position a couple of different times during those fights, right? We saw him more than once lean over towards that dodge, no chance fight, kind of out there on the edge of the dip. We saw him when he sat outside of Kickstart's window there, and Kickstart actually dying inside the compound. Rusty didn't have to take that fight, and I think there was even a moment where I was like, they don't know Rusty's here. Of course, right as he said that, he did take those shots.
He did take the shot.
Known.
Yeah,
but I mean, that angle he was able to play off of, even when he kind of closed the gap between him and Sonics, ultimately won them the fight. So, I mean, as you say, it's just small decisions that end up paying off huge. And speaking of small decisions, we've got a bit of a split here. It looks to be a military game, but as we know, sometimes it can go north.
Yeah, these circles, I mean, we've seen actually even more so of the base in play, and it's still shifted up north. So yeah, most teams will probably think this is a milli circle. I also imagine that quite a few teams will wait to see what happens, but I don't think we've had a milli circle actually yet so far. And any of the angles, I think this is the first and last one of the week.
I mean, we've had a bit of dip in territory out to the south, but to be a true full milli, I mean, this is great for Fiumba and Gas Cans right now. Again, near the top of the leaderboard, just behind Kreche and kills, but they're tied up there with wins. If they can play this one well, this could be huge for them. But as well, when I think of circles like this, when I think of circles that hang out Nova, hang out near the tower, I oftentimes think of Oath wins.
Yeah, I mean, Oath generally do well here, specifically because of the fact they also do loot, Milton Power, so they are going to get the opportunity to rotate on a boat if they need to or stay. But moving back over to Troglodytes, yeah, hopefully this is going to be the start of something new. They realized early, I'm glad they're obviously self-aware of the fact that they were dying way too early. I mean, we noted that when we were casting, the analyst desk noticed that when, we threw it back to them, Trog was just dying way too much early. And I think once they've realized that at so far, at least in the first game, you know, our sample size is very small so far for the day, but they were able to get the win off of realizing that and just keeping as many up as they could. Now, granted, the position they put themselves in was a little risky, but hey, it paid off for them.
Yeah, and you can see right now, I think trying their best to avoid TSM, they actually went and grabbed a couple of those cars and took them away. So,
there's a rock there. Who put that there?
I think everybody was just a little too focused on Troglodytes for that. But I mean, Troglodytes last game, right? They took that push onto a Crochet in phase 1, fought through phase 2. And that was a huge risk where they almost died at the very beginning of the game, but they were able to recover and miraculously play up the rest of the game. So, you know, you kind of sit there and we talk about, well, why aren't they making it a late game? And it's because they are still taking those early game fights, those aggressions, especially looting so close to TSM, a team that they've actually kind of fought with a bit.
Yep, and as we see now, SSG moving across early. Oh, and they are on the hunt. Looks like for a few members of Fumba, but yeah, they're just gonna drive past and get one of the juiciest positions in the circle, which is that high ground, that super high hill up on the military base. Is looking at the map now, it actually looks like Dodge's Vegas is swimming across.
Oh,
yeah,
I mean,
Vegas is swimming across the channel. Nice. Oh no, excuse me, he's taking the boat. I was like, there's no vehicle. How is he getting? So he's taking the boat. Even still, that's not a bad idea, actually, to be completely honest.
We really start to see more teams use the ferry to their advantage, and you know, I mean, it works. It's there to be used. Use it well, and something though to kind of keep in mind is this early on, right? I'm gonna kind of double back to that. What's going on with Fumba? We saw Emmy break away from Nova, break away from the rest of the team, kind of get a little caught off from SSG. But now, if you kind of look at the map, you see that little bit of purple. He's still in the thick of SSG. He broke ahead from the rest of the team, tried to get a different position, and I just think that this is too vulnerable. This is too much.
It's a risk in the sense that if he gets crashed or another team tries to encroach on that position, he'll be stranded. But ultimately, SSG don't really have any angles, especially if he's playing mostly inside of a building, right? So if he could hold that by himself, great, especially if the circle shifts. Otherwise, yes, I agree. That's a little greedy. That is definitely a little greedy.
303 going with a very wide wrap down to the west side. Sonics just pushing straight across the bridge as they have left their drop spot of Pachinki. And looks like actually Mime's going to send it to the top of the tower first, try to get a little bit of a scouting mission. Though I'm curious to see if Sonics are going to set up for a bit of a bridge camp, or if they're just using this for information gathering before getting across.
I think it's most likely information gathering, but I wouldn't be surprised if the camps, honestly, just because they're still in the circle. So if they wanted to take their time and come in a little later, which Sonics generally don't do that. They're in the thick of the circle quite early, and they get a good position quite early. Shin boy. Oh, beautiful save.
Oh, there you go.
Look at that. Yeah, Sonics, I mean, they may choose a bridge camp here, but I doubt they would. And yeah, it doesn't really seem like they're going to.
No, I mean, as you say, it's not really the position we see them try to play, especially on military circles like this. We'll see them take the tops of these hills, sometimes early, just north of the Millie camps, or even if they think it's going to go further south, look for a position that they can rotate into better, but always still with those high grounds, right? They want to have those sniper ranging, those positions, and as we've said before, information gathering.
Information, yeah. They want to get as much information as possible so they can make the best, well-informed decision, and generally they do, right? That's something that Sonics has been very good at, is not only taking those aggressive fights and winning them, but making really good decisions to get there. So they're not going to camp, obviously. They're going to be set up pretty comfortably on the west side. They can look at the bridge, and they're still trying to gather information as we now move over to Dignitas, who has just crossed the bridge and may potentially get an early little scuffle with Dodge, although I imagine they're just going to drive by, maybe taking some damage if Dodge decides to shoot, as Finna is starting to set up, and they hear the vehicles.
And once again, right, phase 1, and we're getting some early fighting for this compound positions. And Dodge kind of in a precarious spot. You've got Dignitas so close, Young Kings out on the other edge. So they've really got to push through one or two of these teams. I mean, really, Lampalot and Vegas, you could argue, could maybe just try and sneak into the forest, but that's not a smart play. They're going to be seen. And you can see right now the trades coming out. Looks like Pablix might have had an angle.
All right, but now there's a lot of fire in that building, and this is circle 1 still, that we haven't even gotten our first shift, and it's getting very, very busy as most teams are committed to the Millie Island. I'm not surprised. I mean, this seems like it would go Millie. As we talked about earlier, yes, there's a chance it doesn't, but most of the teams are going to be set up here, which is going to make rotating now onto the island a little more tricky.
And we'll see Trogloditas, TSM still not in the zone, but everybody else just on the edge. So not too far to go here. Actually, it looks like TSM went all the way up to shooting range for additional vehicles.
Yep, and they are taking their time, and I like that. Oh, Shinboy going to get knocked. Trade coming out from Hella Senpai after Lamp has been knocked, and I wonder if actually a Lamp is resable here. They might actually lose Lamp, as Dodge is now trying to push on the other side. Pavlik's still a thorn in their side, as this isn't even a fight between his team anymore.
Man, Pavlik's actually going for that roof angle, see if that should be enough to get the flush XC. It's going to be Waiku's that does get it there. Lampalot getting taken out. But, I mean, again, back off to the trees just on the ridgeline. You can see Dignitas finally recovered. The smokes, able to get that res back up. And now, I mean, they could still be in the fight. They've actually pulled the attention of Dodge away from this. So Young Kings now don't have to worry too hard about that pressure. But 55 seconds till this next phase pops, and we'll get a better idea for where these teams might have to travel to the zone.
And I believe the decision here from TSM FTX to actually just kind of chill and take their time in the blue is not a bad one. We've seen TSM FTX have success in the past where they come in incredibly late and they basically miss all the early fighting and some of the early chaos, and then they come in and just kind of do their thing on melee base. So I like this decision for them. I think it's generally pretty good. We'll just see if it works out for them this game. And we still have to see what the shift has done, right? This is still phase one, and all these teams now have pretty much set up where they want to play. We see Veritas has no chance as well in the north towards Farm and Sharkfin, where they are just going to basically wait this out and see what the circle does. The same thing with Trog.
And the circle getting ready to close right now. You can see just a matter of seconds there. Phase one coming to an end. We got the picture-in-picture, and it's actually going to shift north. This is not going to be a milli circle, more than likely. Veritas, no chance. Still on the mainland. TSM and Trogloditas didn't even have a chance to cross yet. They're still in the blue, and 22 pulling back towards Milta.
Oh, man. Oh, Clover. Oh, man. That's a circle. Yeah, that's a circle. Now this is where things get incredibly interesting because of the fact that obviously all the teams on Millie base are going to try to jock for position up on the north side, but it's crazy, and I don't want to say this, but it's possible, I guess, that it shifts south again, which we've seen before in the past. It has happened, but ultimately this is going to be kind of a pain for most of the teams on trying to rotate back north.
And there we go. I mean, Fiumba has just been all over the place. They started in Nova. They kind of watched the bridge. They pulled back when teams came by, and now they're wasting absolutely no time. Quick to get back across, and once again, wasting no time. Akreshe and Trogloditas. We saw this on game number 1. We're seeing it again game number 2. It looks like they're just rounding them up right now like sheep to herd for the slaughter.
Yeah, the thing is this is Akreshe knows this is not the fight to take, right? They have the advantage of already being on the north side when they know most of the teams probably went for the south and Millie Island, and so they're going to rotate around. The problem is TSM FTX is actually already ahead of them. We'll see if that becomes an issue as they're starting to rotate in, but TSM FTX setting up on that dirt road, that death road that we so often see teams struggle with, and they might be able to actually hold this considering most teams are on the south.
It looks like Akreshe right now starting to kind of lean back, as you say, towards the south. That's going to take them right up to everyone else. And Young Kings going for the swim, but it looks like right now no pressure coming out from them. But speaking of pressure, Dignitas laying it down onto SSG, landing a couple of shots, but haven't found a knock just yet. Roth and the rest of his crew managing to get away. It looks like Civ actually going to trade out vehicles, but that's so
risky. I mean, I don't think he had a choice. I'm pretty sure his tires were out, and that UAZ was, yeah, I mean, he had to go for it, maybe try to smoke and survive behind the vehicle he had until he get it, but I don't even think he had the time to do that. They obviously saw that his vehicle was in disrepair and he needed a new one, so yeah, that was a tough break for Civ for sure.
You can see, looks like Sonics right now opting for the edge of Dirt Road Potato Hill. They've actually managed to get the high ground off of this, but gas cans coming in pursuit, and I'm not quite sure if they're ready for this fight to break out. Actually, it looks like a potential drive-by could happen.
Yeah, I don't think they know. In fact, they don't, which is why they're starting to desperately turn off. Headshots landing onto Greg's shot, and he is
I don't know how he's still up.
Oh, there it is. Strimzy is going to find it now as gas cans try to find refuge, potentially at that flat top, which they are going to. Now they have to reassess what they want to do here. Greg's shot, for the most part, all intents and purposes, is probably going to bleed out, but actually, Hikerman, I mean, he might go for it. Yeah, he is safe-ish. I say safe-ish because he is still technically in range of Sonics and potentially even throwables, but I kind of like this decision to go for him. I mean, there's kind of no reason to lose one early, especially if Sonics has to commit more so than they'd want to get that. And so this is going to stay up north, and as quite a bit of water is still in, Sharkfin is still being held by a lot of those teams that decided not to rotate over. You see Dodge there, Fiumba, as well as Veritas just above, and Farm is now going to potentially get busy with 22 Esports and no chance looking to move in.
And gas cans were able to get Hikerman and Greg shot all
I like that.
Full up revived. So, and like as you say, it was a big risk, but Sonics didn't over pursue, and so they were able to recover from that. But Space Station right now laying into 22 along with Veritas. You can see not really anywhere else to go, crashing into this Wizard Tower. And pressure coming in from all sides.
Yeah, they desperately need to at least try to get one member up top, which I'm sure they'll probably try to do at some point, while this mad dash for all these teams to try to get in. Shots coming out from Adam on to Archtrade. He's gonna find him. Oh, what happened to, oh my goodness, and he's just hanging out the vehicle. Are you kidding me?
It's just so wild, and Adam actually did manage to survive through all of that as well. Down to 9 HP, gets the knock, but you see pulled back for recovery, and Versus is not done yet. So they're gonna go ahead and pull down to this compound. But you can just see, look, I mean, TSM, Troglodytes, everybody's in the neighborhood.
That was such a I'm just so over it play by Gropo I've ever seen. He's just wildly spinning. He's like, you know what? I don't care. I'm just going to the second seat. I'm just going to, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. Jesus take the wheel.
Yeah, Jesus take the wheel, basically. That was, I respect that. I mean, you know what I mean? What do you do in that situation? His car hit the other one. He just started flying around. He's like, yeah, I'm over it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, this is how I drive in PUBG, all right? You just get fancy with the pinkies out.
In your case, though, I'm not sure it's fancy, Clover. I'm not trying to throw shade, but yep. Shots coming out now. Young Kings onto 303, a team that I desperately at this point hope does well, considering I was looking forward to watching them play, but it's been nothing but rough game after rough game for that team, and Faiska's now going to get knocked. Oath is starting to move in towards the north side of the circle, towards that dirt road, which is so notorious for being difficult to hold and play around. The Sonics are already there.
I mean, we've seen them thread the needle before. In fact, last game when they thread the needle, they lost 3 out of 4. But let's see if they can manage to keep all 4 up. And so far, closing in towards Farm. Looks like,
I mean, they're
thus far, that's good.
Yeah, but their destination is going to be just around Snake, which was so busy as it is, and this is kind of the issue. Oath was outside of the circle. They obviously had to rotate in with not a lot of information, and gathering as much as they could. They still couldn't foresee that there was 3 teams hanging out around Snake, but they are going to somewhat survive, maybe stabilize here. And here comes the Sonics now onto the split of TSM FTX.
Looks like Sonics had enough information to read this, but Alo with the nade primed, underhand, and ready might be able to do something here. We heard it blow off. No explosion yet, and as he tries to pop off a first aid kit, Sonics wasting no time to push into this house. You can see with the barred windows, he's got nowhere else to go except to fight them head on. Penta still up here for support, and Singleton's actually going to hold down. Trying to see if he can keep playing this off angle down here.
This is potentially good for Oath. If this takes the attention off of Oath from TSMF. Oh, look at Alo. I like this.
Oh, that's so nasty.
Oh, I like this.
Just been such a great force here for TSM. Can he get a knock, though? As you saw, shots out, but no damage connecting.
If he potentially would have just cooked a nade and rolled that down, that could have been the end of Sonics right there. At least all 3 members that were outside Mime still hanging out inside.
That Molly.
The problem is they know he's on the roof now. Meanwhile, moving over to a Cresce there on the 2 box. They are going to get a knock out against them. As this fight is still happening. Oh!
Oh, good try. Alo is actually going to be 22 Esports third-partying into this. So you're going to get both a knock onto Mime and Alo. So a member down each for the NA teams here in this fight. Meanwhile, in the small box, you can see it, Cresce and Young Kings still slowly taking this fight out of docks, but they're not in the zone. They need to start heading towards the east, closer to Sharkfin.
And this is really wild. Sonics doesn't, and neither of these teams really have to move, right? They're safe for the time being, but this almost feels like mutually assured destruction depending on how this fight plays out. And Oath actually is able to stand up and start taking some shots, simply because of the fact that TSM no longer is the one mainly holding them down. Sonic's obviously creating issues for TSM FTX. Is Oath now may be able to do something here?
We've talked about, you say, mutually assured destruction, teams helping other teams out in a dire time of need. I mean, TSM, Sonics, the two teams that we've talked about who've managed to put down the kills, put down the performance, but just haven't found the chicken dinners yet this weekend. This could be an unfortunate side effect of them maybe not getting another one here as Young Kings getting eliminated.
Yep, Young Kings is going to fall on that beach. We saw on the south side of this. Cresce still not. They're in. They have one building to play, but they are going to have to move, so potentially slowing it down and getting some information. Meanwhile, still this fight is going on, and Sonics is full committed now inside the jump.
Oh,
they're on fire.
Penta. That's a great trade out there by TSM. Unfortunately, I have a couple of knocks. Alos we did see was flushed out from that fight earlier, but Purdy and Luke still up, trying to navigate through the smokes and clear out what's left of the Sonics.
Oh no, and the smoke again, it's so hard to see in that smoke for both players, for Mime and for Purdy. So a little bit of surprise. And TSM again, TSM FTX again, man, they're struggling to make it halfway through the game without losing more than, or without keeping more than 3 members up.
I mean, Luke really tried to play the off angle and get a little bit closer to zone as an insurance to make sure that they had an entry point as well as the information for the nearby teams. Unfortunately, now he just doesn't have the angle to really do much for Sonics except wait for them into the blue. But in all that time, they were able to get full recovery back to 4 standing. And you can see right now, with 3 kills, they're little damaged in terms of armor. Now they've got to think about how they can get past Oath.
Oh man, you know what's funny is I'm pretty sure Oath has played up here before. I think I've seen Oath up here before in the past. And I mean, at least they're okay for now, right? They were in a very precarious position, but now they've been able to at least somewhat stabilize. Now they are on the very north side of the circle, as we see Haze 10 taking time to get as much information as possible. The teams ahead of him as they do try to rotate in, and now Sharpshot taking shots. At no chance, he's just going to continue to cruise on by, Clover. Oh, right into the gas cans! Oh my goodness!
Had no chance there, so we actually see runs over one of their own members, gets fully eliminated, but not before knocking out 2 players of the gas cans. You can see Hikerman once again having to come to the rescue for his teammates.
The problem is that Cresce does have line of sight onto him, but the smokes should help. Oh, not Adam, though. Not going to help Adam. Or... oh, and spray coming out from Kick. They were not expecting this from Oath. As Gas is going to be able to recover that second member up, so they are going to get the res. But meanwhile, back here, Kick, the damage.
This angle's still working for him, and Sonic's not really having the opportunity to even peek right now. Just so many eyes on them for different angles. Luke still up as well for TSM. But you can see throwables out from Oath. They're wasting no time, and Snakers actually with line of sight onto SSGs. They're starting to fall here.
And Oath is doing exactly what we've seen Oath love to do. They've gotten themselves in a position where they can just spin around and turret, and that's exactly what is happening. And they're starting to rack up the knocks and potentially even the kills. 4 kills already for Oath. And still many more to potentially get, but Sonics...
to see from them. I think that we gave them a little bit of slack for coming into this weekend with 2 wins, but not really a lot of kills to show for it. Here on the last day right now, as they're still tied, they're able to slowly close that gap right now as they turn into focus 2 kills right now, and you can see they've really been able to punish every team in every direction.
But look at this. They're not wasting this opportunity at all. I mean, as you saw Kick, I mean, he's literally shooting at 3 different teams in the span of 1 magazine. So they're maximizing as much damage and trying to get as many kills as possible. They know they have a low kill count. That headshot's going to land, but the spray gets away from Bale. Spraying with a big scope like that is difficult. Still, that's going to be Sonics going out. And here we go. Oh, 7 kills starting to pick things up.
You know, and that circle shift, it's not terrible for him. It's not too far, but when you really look at what's left in the zone, it's a lot of that open field between them and Troglodytes. A couple of trees, very, very small dips, but not a lot to play from.
What I will say, though, is no one else really has something great to play in the circle either, and I'm pretty sure they have enough of a little bit of a ridge and some defilade where they actually might be okay. I don't think this is the worst for Oath. Specifically because they've also, I mean, let's be honest, Clover, they've crippled most of the teams around them.
I can see a Fiumba now taking shots towards a Cresce, who were moving to that dip, a little more centered position to try to have, but still not out of line of sight from the other LATAM team, still playing out to the south. Fiumba, number 3 right now in terms of leaderboard. They've got 2 chicken dinners, 41 kills. With gas cans out, they might be able to jump them back up into second place, potentially even first if they can come out with a win this match.
I do love Akreshe's. I love their position right now. I mean, they have center circle. They have a crate as well, on top of the fact that they're leaving 2 members off to the west side to just kind of survey the circle, just kind of watch over. They know that Versus will have to move at some point. They know Oath will have to move at some point, although I'm not sure they have too much line of sight on Oath. But even still, Akreshe is looking very good in the circle right now.
And see a slow creep up on the backside of a Cresce Fiumba, just making sure that every other little angle here is clear to play from. Looks like they may have potentially spotted LFP out from behind the shack, and they can clear out LFP. That gives them a little bit more vantage point to play from here in the south. Meanwhile, Oath managed to build themselves some hard cover with what's left of their vehicles. You can see that none of those cars are going to drive after this positioning.
I would say reaching about 40 to 50 miles an hour on those would probably be a little difficult, as most of them are missing tires. But hey, yeah, they were able to at least roll them further enough to be safe in the circle. And now from this position, they can actually play somewhat comfortably, as we see some of these other teams, especially on the eastern edge here with Veritas and 22 Esports, struggling to make ends meet.
Vinny and Biznaga just letting it rain what's left of their throwables. And you can see Vinny, no helmet. Biznaga, armor and helmet are trashed. And so they're really struggling from this point on, especially as they continue to wrap into the zone. It's going to take them right into the line of sight of Fiumba. But Zimmy Stilson getting that first knock onto Biznaga, cleans it up. All eyes now on Vinny as 22 eliminated. Top 5 teams. Just about everybody has found themselves a comfy spot in his zone. Veritas has a little bit of play just on the edge with that compound. So looks like Versus also has a bit of play with their compounds. Depending on where the circle goes, we might see a little bit of favor for one team over another, but Lobes and JR already starting to spread out a bit for Veritas.
Yep, and this is good. Starting to move before the circle pops. And Fiumba, I mean, they're one of the teams that decided to stay up here on the north side when it was potentially a melee circle. And because of that, they've been able to use that position quite effectively. And now, as it shifts straight onto a Cresce, they are going to lose a member who was out in the off angle there, but they still have 3 strong in the center. Meanwhile, Oath, again, still not in the worst position.
I mean, this is really going to be, I think, a who moves first situation, right? Because if everybody starts to push onto a Cresce could really fall apart here with no place to really back up from. But you can see right now they're really trying to focus on this Fiumba push. As Veritas could potentially help them or hurt them in this situation. This is a 1v1v1 in terms of all of these teams that actually Stilson getting Lobes and Ethan both with headshots.
That was disgusting.
Nasty.
Yeah, he's going to find 2. That's going to be very nice to essentially get pressure off of them from that team so they can make their play, right? They're not in the circle, and they're most likely going to have to fight a Cresce for it, which opens the door, actually, for Oath, who is still very much keeping their eyes on Versus, which is good, because once they get rid of Versus, they essentially have the north to play with by themselves, and here we go.
Ooh, Fiumba actually chose to wrap all the way back around a Cresce. Looks like they did manage to find an angle to play from. Are going to take RBN down, get the flush as well. And now there's only 2 members of a Cresce left to hold this central hill. It might make things a little bit easier for Veritas. Oath actually do manage to get 2 of those vehicles running just far enough to try and make this hard cover. But as VS makes a move, get taken down by Fiumba again. Silzen, Shangxing, getting more knocks. Now on 6 kills for Fiumba.
The problem here for Oath now is the fact that Veritas is the one taking a lot of shots, and now Fiumba even is starting to direct their attention towards Oath. This is actually the last thing Oath wanted. They were hoping that most of these teams would fight so they could kind of sneak in, and now, yeah, they're getting absolutely punished. Even still, there's a chance for them to find some sort of cover, maybe on a defilade kick. Actually, looks like he's going to be okay for the time being. Snakers is just barely not in. And here comes Veritas.
Oh, Veritas. I mean, Veritas still 4 up right now. This is going to be the team that could really make or break for everybody. You see the drive-by starting to come out and actually going to run over Kickstart. So Snaker's the last still up, tries to punish just a bit, but is going to get spotted by JR. Oath falls down. We've got our top 4, Fiumba, Veritas, Akreche, and VS. Let's just say VS T-Plants right now getting rained on by throwables. He may not be long for this world.
Made out indeed 6 kills. The way that Fiumba has positioned, by the way, and played these last couple circles has been very impressive. I mean, pretty much textbook stuff, getting the wraps, trapping Akreche in that bowl they were pretty much holding Fiumba out from, and now just kind of taking control of the rest of the circle is just really great to see.
I mean, Fiumba could potentially be our first team to get 3 chicken dinners. Akreche's still not out of it just yet with 2 up, but they've got to get through Veritas first right now. He's still got the high ground. They've got a bit of an edge and a dip to play from, and T-Plint's getting DraftKings down to 10 HP, but now giving his position away to Silzen.
They really need to get rid of first of all, T-Plants and then Akreche, because otherwise Veritas is going to have some pretty good angles on any of the movements that Fiumba is going to want to make.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the downfall of Fiumba the last match we saw. They got sandwiched between Trogloditas, between Sonics, and gas cans, and it just didn't work well for them. So if they can just slow this down a little bit, as you say, get rid of T-Plants, get rid of Akreche, it could stand a chance to get that other win against Veritas. And there you go, T-Plants has been spotted.
And they really needed that. Now they can somewhat move up and start to put pressure on the last 2 members of Akreche. But again, it's really Veritas that are dictating the circle with their position.
I love seeing Fiumba use this ridge line. They haven't stood still. They haven't gotten stale. And they're continuing to make more productive moves with more information that they gather. And as you say, I mean, really keeping that focus on Akreche, making sure that they're not too far split.
So they do have a position to technically play here, but bunching all 4 members is probably not the wisest. Going for this off-angle tree where T-Plants was, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to see from them. Now they have center, and now they are the ones that are going to dictate whether or not Veritas could even make it close to center. Next phase is going to be center dot.
Still has that one car, but as they come down this hill, that's going to make them really vulnerable to Fiumba. And if they can't handle Akreche either, I mean, Akreche could be the crux in Veritas' side.
True. Now, honestly, Fiumba, all they have to do is kind of just wait. Make sure they don't get pushed and surprised from Akreche, and then just watch Veritas. And this is, for the most part, should be their game.
Moving into phase 9 now, the blue slowly creeping in. So Veritas, who's pushed up along the edge, are not going to be able to stay here for too much longer. And we saw, again, Fiumba with that 2-2 split, holding different angles. They can keep an eye on both of the teams. MA is actually going to be able to use that angle to get a knock onto one member of Akreche. Just Viz King still up and standing, but he's not in a position to get the rest. Fiumba wastes no time to push this. If they can clear out Viz King, they do. They can turn all their attention now to focus on Veritas. They know exactly where they are. And the circle is giving them not many options left to go. Ethan with the Molotov trying to pick up the flush onto Emmy. Keeping a watchful eye on the smokes that are about to finish. See if he can spot DraftKings. That might be able to take 2 down and turn the odds in their favor for this as well. But look at all this open space.
Still some smokes on the side of Veritas, and this is exactly what they need to do to win this game. The knocks are really what are paying off for them, but only 2 members up. It's 2-on-2.
Oh, DraftKings getting down Ethan. You can see JR, Danny G. Still with a little bit of a high ground, a dip to play from. Shangjing, DraftKings. Each with 2 different angles. That's angle. 1 knockdown, 1 left to go. Gets the flush onto Danny G. Can they spot JR in the smoke?
They have to know right at this point. No, that's going to be knocked. It's down to 1-on-1. Oh, JR!
I think they did it. Veritas, 10 kills, steal the win away from Fiumba, who just couldn't get those 3 chicken dinners. Veritas now landing on the board with the first chicken of their own.
That was potentially one of the most important swipes I think he's ever made. I mean, that was a very quick step onto the last member of Fiumba. And yeah, I'll be honest, I really thought Fiumba was able to dictate the circle with the position that they had. But man, Veritas fighting through that. Whew, JR, the shots. So impressive.
I mean, really, just patience is a virtue there. And you saw Veritas was really waiting until that fighting between Akreche, fighting between, I think it was T-Plints that was still left for VS, and of course Fiumba kind of dwindled down before they made that position and pushed from that very open and vulnerable spot at the top of the hill, looting that win at the very last second. But I mean, Fiumba again did not go down without a fight. We've really seen them put that effort forward this whole weekend long, and that was a close one.
It was a close one indeed. You can even argue that in the end that 2v1 was. It was rough because again Fiumba had the advantage, but JR had some really nice shots, and the fact that he had snuck up to that smoke in order to get that off angle was pretty much one in the game. On top of the fact that he just hit some very impressive stuff. Love to see it.
And obviously, I mean, we got to talk about it. I know we'll talk about it when we get to see highlights here in just a moment. Let's talk about it now. The fact that this started off looking like a milli circle, so many teams really put themselves up early for the fighting, and then when we went to that phase 2, phase 3 shift, and it pulled entirely away, we had all these drive-bys, all these fightings, and it was just a wild early game again.
That was actually my favorite moment of the game. Yeah, because I mean, you just look at him, he's just like, yeah, I give up. Let's just duel, man. And he actually almost knocked at him too, which is the craziest part. But then we move over to Akreshe, and yeah, they were very dominant on the southwest side of the circle up until basically the very end of the game.
And I mean, Young Kings, I want to give them credit. They managed to sneak in across this. They swam across. They stayed alive a little bit longer than I expected. But I mean, again, mutually assured destruction. TSM Sonics really struggling here, and no chance with another no chance drive-by again.
Yeah.
You hate to see it.
I mean, at this point, it's just starting to become like normal for them, and I'm not really surprised. Sonics actually was able to get out 4 members of that fight with TSM. The issue is that Oath was sitting up in this nest, just raining down so much punishment on that team. And to be honest, that's exactly the type of the game Oath needed, right? We've talked about it ad nauseum. Yes, they came in with low kills, but they had the chicken dinners. Now they're just going for the kills, and it's very much paying off for them.
Yeah, Oath managed to pick up 8 kills this match. And again, there were so many times when I thought that was going to be the absolute end from them, and they managed to pull things out of their pocket to stay alive in the late game. Fiumba, another team that once again had a heartbreaking late game performance where it just didn't quite translate into a win for them, but brought it very close nonetheless. Again, from this positioning, we saw Veritas hold the late game, stay up against the blue, and just wait until they had everything in their favor. And actually, I think this hesitation here from DraftKings against shooting towards JR actually might have cost them here. So great play, great control there by JR in the end.
Yeah, that was really clean. I thought that 2v1 was going to go the other way, but he was able to clutch it out. And because of that, Veritas will find their first win, and they will also deny Fiumba their third, which is very important for all the other teams in the top 5 currently, because nobody has 3 wins.
Yeah, and I mean, another thing to point out real quick, Fiumba, Akreshe, Oath pick up 11, 9, 8 kills apiece, and as they continue to chase each other on the leaderboard, all of these kills could be the make or break at the end of today.
And with only 2 games left, honestly, Clever, yeah, they're running out. A lot of these teams that don't have a dinner are running out of games. And because of the fact that multiple teams now have multiple wins, 1 game win is not as impactful as they would want it to be, where they would jump up, into 3rd or even 2nd place. In fact, they would just go straight to 4th or 5th. So it's still very much close. 2 games left, but the exciting thing is that the next 2 games are the best map, and that would be Miramar.
I mean, you and I have such great taste. We know that Miramar is the best map, but it is not the only map as well that's available to be playing for PUBG, which I think that we've got one to talk about in just a moment, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But you know what? Screw it. We'll talk about it now. It is Taego. Obviously, we're not playing Taego in esports, but I want to talk about it because I love it. I know the players love it, and hopefully you guys love it too. So make sure that you do log in to PUBG. Try out the new 8x8 map available now, and you guys can check out all the awesome Taego and Taego items in game.
Very true. I'm excited for Taego. I've been playing it. I think it's one of the more fun maps they've made in a while. So yeah, it's fantastic. Love it. Check it out.
Awesome. Well, guys, that's going to be it for us. We're going to go to a quick break, not before you guys can check everything out here for Taego, and then we'll return with the analysts and an interview, so don't go anywhere.
Joey, wake up. I want to play some PUBG, man. Joey, wake up, man.
Yeah, I'm
play
ready.
some games.
I'm ready to play some PUBG, man.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back once again after 2 games, 2 new winners today, and the most recent being Veritas, and we have Danny G. Danny, how you feeling after getting the pressure off and finally getting that win?
It feels good. We actually planned for that. Well, we have like a really good strat for that zone that we pretty much saw VP do, which is just play for the North Shift essentially, especially on the MC format. So we played for the North Shift, we got the North Shift, and then from there it was just pretty easy. JR ended up clutching out the win, and yeah, feels good to get a win.
Easy 1v2 clutch for JR. He does them all the time. Hi, Pac.
Yeah.
What do you got for our man?
Congratulations on the win, obviously. I've been really interested to see it, and actually I'm really glad you brought up that that kind of VP strat that you guys have picked up on that sort of zone. But what have been the biggest differences, I guess, you guys as a team have noticed here coming through to the final stages of ESL versus previously, I guess?
What do you mean, like the previous Veritas's or like last?
I mean, just in terms of the teams, obviously a lot of teams have been commented on how things have been playing out very differently, I guess, in terms of team tendencies, whether or not there's a bit of a lobby overlap or a mismatch, so to say.
Yeah, since we didn't have that much time to practice with these teams, I feel like a lot of people, especially the early game macro, has been pretty crazy. A lot of teams fight early. A lot of people were used to getting certain spots for free when they scrim with like their region, so I feel like they keep those tendencies, and people seem to bump into each other a lot. And there seems to be a lot of early game fighting, which we tend to try and avoid.
Okay, thank you.
Well, you're talking about that, and that's kind of one of the things that we've noticed is if you guys get messed with in the earlier sections of the game, that's the only time you guys really fight. Mid game is a lot of rotation focus from you guys, and then it seems to be about circle, I'd say about 5, 6, maybe even 7, somewhere in that range, whenever we start to see you guys start to go a little bit more active. But it feels like the rotations at that stage have been a little bit rough for you guys. So the improvement as you've been moving forward to catch this last round, what did you find that was working for you that you're going to continue to try to emulate going from here?
I mean, to be honest, we just played this game out well. We got the shifts we needed, and we, at the end there, we let the teams fight that needed to fight, and we just pushed them towards each other, and we just kind of played our game. The other games that we've had, like, more aggressive shifts that didn't favor us, we just tend to try and pick up kills, especially with the amount of teams that have 2 wins. So even if let's say we wouldn't have gotten a good shift and we would have played for kills, there's still like a good chance we still could get top 8. So yeah, that was basically our game plan. If we got a win, we play for the win. We obviously try not to toss the game, but if not, we try and get kills.
Well, I'm excited for you guys picking up a good position, getting that chicken dinner. With the way you were talking about double stack chicken dinners all across the place right now, looking pretty good for some PGC points.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, S tier shot calling, predicting that northern shift on that circle. So good job there. And I know you're getting ready to head into game number 3, but I want to let you know, I know you're on the hunt for that second victory, but only 15 windows behind Shrimsy in terms of most windows destroyed. So I'm going to need you to step it up and break some more windows for us.
I'll try.
That's the real prize at the end of the year,
It wasn't even intentional, to be honest, but yeah.
Well,
sometimes
hey, you know what?
You can't get knocked. You shoot the windows.
Now you know.
Now you know. Now it's going to be in the back of your head, and that's all you're going to be able to think about from this point forward. Anyway, we'll let you go. Get ready to go into game number 3. Good luck in the final 2, sir.
Thank you.
Well, Veritas finally gets their win. They've been playing fairly consistently, I gotta say, Hypoc. I mean, they've been managing to find late game here and there, but no more inconsistent or consistent than most of our teams, really. But that was a really well-earned win by them in that game.
Yeah, I mean, you say found late game consistently. That's only, what, their third time finding it to the top 4, though, right? So actually in a position where they can convert that, and on the back of, I got to say, some really solid decision making. The moment where I think one of those knocks gets traded back, I got a little anxious. Again, that flank was kind of brewing. Yeah, it was brewing for what felt like 4 minutes. But it came down to a clutch performance at least. And it's interesting to see actually somebody take something away so kind of visible in terms of that zone decision as well, when picking it up from another team, Virtus Pro over in Europe. And it's great to see them rewarded for that as well.
For sure. Matt, I know we were sitting there talking about that first circle. I remember I was sitting there talking to Hypog. You might have been off trying to kill flies somewhere. I think that might have been the case.
Dude, I got it, though. I got it.
But at least you got it. You got that fly. But yeah, you see a circle like that, and I was telling Hype, I was like, man, there's a surprising amount of teams that are hard committing to Millie on this one. Good shot calling on the part of Veritas there pays off in a big way. But with 2 games left, I mean, what do you got?
I got to follow up on that. Good shot calling from everybody. With as mean as that circle was and everybody going to military base, we had near on no deaths. I think there were still 61 alive by the time everybody made it back to the main island. So massive respect to everybody for navigating that one. But I don't know, 2 games left. I gotta feel pretty good for this week, let's be honest. Just walking away with 1 chicken dinner with the stack that we've seen coming out. We have so many games right now that have been stacked up whenever we're looking at the chicken dinners moving into the first 2 days that we're just 4 teams pretty much eating them all. So now chances for PGC points, and if a team like Veritas, who has been trying to make it into that end game, being successful specifically off of a beautiful flick and good performance coming out from JR, maybe this is the motivation. Even if it's not for today, it's maybe the motivation for next week when everything resets.
And to be fair, honestly, Hypog, Veritas kind of doing the rest of the lobby a favor there, because Fiumba was looking poised and ready for that 3rd win.
I mean, you could argue that there's a couple of names that made it to the end game there that would have made it a little bit unattainable for a lot of these other teams. But Veritas making good progress here. And again, just looking at it, actually, overall, if they're able to pull something out of the bag on Miramar, their kill count should kind of leave them in the mix of it. Again, not really pressuring towards a Crochet, depending on what the cumulative is so far once we get a decent idea. But nothing to turn the nose up, actually. I mean, before that, it was 34 kills and 9, so it's a big jump for them.
Yeah, man, but I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, really. You can't take anything away from the performance that Akreche is pulling up. I mean, they're currently still sitting in first place, 59 kills overall. I think that's current. The only team with more kills than them, Matt, are the Sonics.
It's the Sonics, man. What can you say? They've been pumping out a ton of kills in specifically dangerous positions. But we're also starting to see a lot of these teams that are securing chicken dinners playing more comfortably. Like we've been talking about Oath and, let's be honest, a lower kill count moving into this. But today we're seeing them step it up a little bit more with tower power plays that we see them trying to pull off in that last game. Sonics, though, were on the flip side of that. They got all the kills, but they're a little hungry right now as they can't seem to find chicken anywhere. And it's not for lack of trying. We've seen it come down to 1v1s and it just not work yet.
I don't know, man. That was driving me crazy. I was sitting there looking at it. I was like, I've seen Snakers play that tower so many damn times. I cannot believe that Sonics didn't even think to look up there, knowing that kind of Oath was hanging out over there, and they end up paying the price for it. But that's kind of been the mid game that Sonics has been in recently. It's just kind of running into a lot of trouble that maybe they're kind of used to fighting their way out of, and this time it's not really going their way. Well, we are ready to head it over into Miramar. Let's take it over to our casters, Clover and Godspeed.
As you heard it, Godspeed, Miramar is happening.
It is finally Miramar time, and yeah, it's Sonics is like they're like the guy that waits in the back of the line for some like delicious chicken, and then by the time he gets up there, they're just out, and so they're just left hungry this whole time. It's just been really rough to watch. But I want to give a huge shout out to Danny G and Veritas. To be completely honest, the fact that Danny has even said before that he loves to watch VODs and he watches a lot of the Twires, and that's huge. And the fact that he's adopted a strategy from VP and the massive, beautiful brain of Batulans, it clearly worked out for them there. And I think that's very important that teams from different regions are kind of watching each other and paying attention to what other teams are doing, what's working, what's not, and that's ultimately what's going to build success for Veritas and Danny G. So that was just really great to hear.
Yeah, and I mean, as you say, teams doing their homework. This is kind of something that we talked about the end of day Friday, the end of day Saturday. We wanted to know we wanted to see what to expect, going into the next day. And this being the last day, we're looking at those teams that we do know go back home, watch the VODs, and prepare for the fight at hands. And again, a team that we know is capable of that and puts the work in is TSM, but things just haven't been working out in their favor. They've really been getting into these kind of crazy and clustered fights in the mid game, day after day, match after match. It's just been a bit of a struggle for them, I think, to break through that.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing. As I mean, it's no secret that I'm a massive TSM fan, but yeah, it's come down to small mistakes. I mean, honestly, like I really don't want to harp on Alo, but that roof play, he potentially could have had 1, 2, 3 knocks. Instead, he wasn't able to get a knock. He showed his hand early, and because of that, he had to jump off the roof, and then he just got knocked himself. You know what I mean? So it's little things like that where I don't even necessarily think that was like a throw from Alo by any stretch, but just small misplays that missteps that have been costing TSM FTX so much.
Well, and two, I mean, kind of to mirror back to what we heard in that Danny G interview earlier, is that a lot of these teams are used to how things are when they play in scrims, when they play in their sub-region lobby. And so to come into a combined lobby where we've got a whole lot of LATAM doing LATAM team things, a whole lot of NA doing NA things, the macro and the meta both are a little bit different. And that's why we see a lot of adjustment in some of these early fights, these early days, and even kind of, here on week 1. But with that, we have our first circle pop. It's down to the southeast. There's a bit of water into play as well. So that's going to make things a little interesting for teams that might tend to try and play center, because there's really not a strong central position except kind of out there in the rocks. I mean, there's not really a reason to take that this early.
These are actually really interesting circles to play as well, because there's just not a lot of compound to play, right? Specifically, once the circle starts to shrink a little bit and we start to see more terrain, as far as center circle, these are actually really fun to watch and fun to play, if I'm being completely honest. As long as it doesn't keep too much water in and it cycles most of Leonis out, a lot of these teams are going to be foot pushing and kind of jockeying for position that way. And for the most part, these do lead to exciting, I'd say, like midway points in the game. But we'll have to see with that. Obviously, a lot of the teams currently aren't in the circle. Look for some rotations. I imagine TSM FTX and probably Gas Cans will rotate on the south side. Gas Cans coming in a little later than most teams as usual. But really, I'm kind of looking again. I'm gonna go back to it. I'm looking at 303. They really 303, no chance, and Versus need to really make something happen here. Otherwise, it's not going to look good for the closing of the first week for these guys, or first weekend, I should say.
No, and like I said, I mean, there's really not a huge chance for them to do much in terms of winning and placement. I mean, there's still 2 games. They could really pop off in kills, maybe pick up a chicken dinner, and it might be enough to make that jump into the top 8. But you want to know that they can confidently close out this week so that they can go into next in a much stronger and more confident position against other teams in the lobby, which, I mean, again, it's kind of been a bit of a theme when we're talking about some of these LATAM teams adjusting to playing versus NA and vice versa, because it does shake up the vibe a little bit in these games. If you're playing in North America sub-region only, you know where teams are going to be, where teams are going to wrap. But when you've got these teams from a region that you're not completely familiar with, that means, I'm wrapping this way. I think it's free. Just kidding. Here's no chance. Here's Troglodytas to mess things up. And that's really what we've been seeing a lot of.
Yeah, and that's actually been happening in No Chance. It seems more so than some of the other teams. I mean, how many times have we seen them just send it into a position and just get wiped within the matter of 5 seconds or less? You know what I mean? And that's what I would like to see stop from No Chance. 303's problem, on the other hand, is completely different. They're just struggling to kind of find any sort of foothold in the circle. It almost feels like they're constantly chasing circle, and when they're in, they're not really in, if that makes sense. They're just they made it to a point where they can survive, and the next shift they have to figure out another type of drastic play. And so it seems like there's not a lot of proactivity or just kind of foresight in the planning of how 303 wants to approach things, which is sad, to be completely honest, because I feel like that roster has a lot of potential.
Moving back to No Chance, who we were just talking about, once again finding themselves into an early fight, this time driving through Dodge. They're actually going to pressure Finna away. He's out on foot, but Hella Senpai holding an angle here. And 6x on the, looks to be double ARs. That's what You know, I mean,
M16.
okay, I want to talk about Dodge for a sec too, because this is another team that we've hyped up, and I loved watching them play during PCS. And really, when I look back on all the PCSs, there have been so many memorable moments from this roster. But even though we've seen them put in the work, they've gotten 32 kills thus this weekend. They haven't really done anything overly magical, especially with what I think they're capable of and capable of in this lobby.
No, and I agree. They haven't done anything that we kind of got to see in, at the very least, PCS, right? They were very impressive in PCS4, not only with their kill count, but also their positioning. Now it just seems like they're kind of not in the same vein as 303, but they're just fighting to survive, right? They're not playing the strong game that we're normally seeing, where they take a good early position, their split works out for them, they get some kills off of it, and they also start kind of hurting teams towards each other. That's not really been the case with Dodge this time around. But again, 2 games left. As long as they can salvage something here, that wouldn't be the end of the world going into the next week for them.
And too, I mean, I really think that the big change here, at least in terms of why some of the teams have been struggling, is that LATAM has just absolutely stepped it up.
Yes, that's a big factor.
There is so much impressive play that we've seen coming out of LATAM, Acresce especially, and as I say that, here we go. A little bit of shooting into Sonics as they're applying the pressure here into Los Leones, but shouldn't affect any long-term fighting here. I'm not expecting either team to stop. They're just kind of saying hello, making their presence known, and continuing on. But I think it's been that confident and that aggression that we've seen from Acresce this event that has just shown this is a great roster.
Yeah, it's night and day
Absolutely.
difference from what we've seen before in the past, and that's what you love to see. I mean, they're currently in first place, right? That's pretty much the most drastic change you can see in gameplay as far as the team goes from one event to another. So overall, yes, Acresce, I want to see this continue. That's the only thing. Going into next week, whatever happens, even if they don't end up winning this week, I want to see, at the very least, that they're able to replicate this type of performance and this type of success. But so far, 2 games left. We'll talk about that, next week, I guess.
Yeah. Consistency always is key in the word of the day. But I mean, again, Acresce, 59 kills, 2 chicken dinners. Fiumba, 50 kills, 2 winners. Trogloditas, finally catching up, 33 kills, 1 chicken dinner. A little bit of a slow start, but it's good to see this kind of play coming out from those LATAM teams, and additionally from teams like Gas Cans that kept things a little bit more conservative, but they've found themselves in the late game. They found themselves as 2 chicken dinners. Oath, same thing. They're making those plays to start getting those kills. But going into this match, we heard the analyst desk talk about it. Sonics right now with 61 kills, Dignitas with 55. A single chicken dinner from either of these teams here on Miramar will skyrocket them up into 5th place onto the board for leader and in terms of prize pool. And if they can win 2 in a row, well, that's going to make a huge difference in terms of who walks away the winner this weekend.
Yeah, and to briefly touch on Oath and Gas, I mean, there was obviously a lot of talk about, these teams just won their 2 games and they don't have any kills and all that. But to be honest, yeah, that was the case. But look how much it has opened up for them to play a different type of style now and be more aggressive with the kills. You look at Oath last game. You look at Gas Cans now with 44 kills. Oath has effectively doubled their 30 kills now, right? And they still have 2 more games. So it's very possible these last 2 games, those teams close it out. And that's just how important it is relieving that pressure, as we've been talking about all weekend, of getting that game or 2 games under your belt and then really just being able to play a much more aggressive or less conservative play style, so to speak.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that, maybe we might see a little bit of a slowdown for Sonics and Dignitas, some of those teams that haven't yet gotten that chicken dinner. Or even
that's an argument to make.
Trogloditas, and you get the second one, right? Change things up, do what you need to be successful. Well, sharp shot. I mean, I guess you got to do what you need to do as well.
You good, dog? He's just all over the place. The thing with Sonics, though, is, at least, and I think it's specifically with Sonics, I don't really feel... Ooh, nice little AUG. It's not a bad little... Oh, ghillie suit. Best item in that crate, by the way. Sonics, I don't think, has really changed their playstyle, right? And I think that's even something we talked about to them back at PCS when they were just kind of dominated, let's be honest. They still were just playing their game. And most important, is that a Winnie? It is. It's like, I recognize that scope.
You know what? Alo's been clicking heads all weekend long, regardless of
you won't hit the shot.
TSM that they haven't really been doing, or I say haven't been doing. TSM's been playing well. They've just been in some really bad situations, but Alo has just been really bringing it forward for his team, not only in the group stages, but here in week 1.
Oh, always. I mean, he's the close range god, right? So he should be. But yeah, Alo, all 4 members. of TSM FTX, super impressive. They just haven't. I feel like, again, even though we saw signs of it yesterday on the Miramar game, they had 20 kills. I still feel like they're not firing on all cylinders as far as a team goes. And we know how much chemistry these guys have together. It's just something's a little off. That's all. Something's a little off. It could just be this first weekend. I'm not discounting them, even if they don't finish with a dinner. It's just been rough.
Well, real quick, we see that water still way into play, as well as one of the tiny mini islands. But we're going to Puerto Paraiso, so we've got a bit of that high ground, low ground split. And earlier we talked about teams not wanting to go into the town. I mean, when you see a circle like this, Godspeed, what's going through your mind?
Sorry, I'm just watching Greg shot desperately.
There you go.
Trying to
Kurt got him.
survive. He had no tires left. Jeez. Very rough. When I see this, I'm sorry, what was your question?
You know, I don't even know that it was important anymore.
It was something about when I see this circle.
Hitting these.
Yeah, when I see this circle, if I'm a player, I kind of want to throw up a little bit. Oh, Troglodytes actually getting 2 knocked immediately. That's not exactly the start you want to this game, especially the fact that they were in the running to potentially get a second dinner here and close the distance between them and first place. But that's going to be a little rough. No, Trog is actually just done. Wow. They are just straight done. And man, we heard Rusty talking about it. All we have to do is just make sure we don't die early. And that is exactly what they did this game. That is unfortunate.
Well, I think, too, kind of back at the hand with the map, a lot of teams still not wanting to go on the eastern side of the road into Puerto because of that low ground of some of that open spaces. It's going to be hard to come away from that as the circle will inevitably shift away from the water. So teams really trying to center themselves up as close as possible along these dirt roads. We've got a little bit of compounds and some ridges to play from. Unfortunately, these dips aren't free. These compounds aren't free. And you can see it's really putting these teams on top of each other. It's now 303 getting into fight with VS. Our tray is going to get flushed out, but you can see Jube trying to hold that off angle. 303 driving right by. There you go.
Oh, nice headshots. This is an interesting little setup they versus has as well. Gropon is kind of sitting in the off angle. They know that Jube is probably close. Because of that, this is now going to become a potential little stalemate because I don't think Jube can back off from this.
Oh. Nades. He actually got nades on both sides. You can see throwing, hoping to catch 3-3s to come out, but just can't connect the shots. Is going to get knocked down. Faiska picks up one. Gropo just can't get the angle through those smokes and is actually going to have to pull back around, find another spot to play from. But T-Plints playing into it from the side might be able to spot Faiska out here. Meanwhile, we've also still got fighting now. Fiumba spotting out Sonics, and they're going to take down H-Win. So thus far along this road, Fiumba's managed to pick up 3 kills.
Yeah, and the reason for that as well is because, as you can see, the circle is not very conducive to a lot of play areas left, and most of the teams are actually already kind of set up in the areas you'd want to be set up when you see this type of circle, right? You see a very wide split coming out from Fiumba. Akreshe obviously still in on the west side, but holding that as well. The north is now being very heavily contested by Oath as well as Versus and 303. On top of the fact that Young Kings is also there. I mean, this is a very claustrophobic circle.
It is, and with 14 seconds till it closes, it can become even more claustrophobic if we don't pull away from the water. I mean, going into phase 3, we've still got so many teams up against this road, and so we'll see how this one plays out as 303 now wasting no time into this fight, and it's actually going to center itself up. Still a little bit of water into play, but for the most part, not too terrible, except for 2 teams to the south that are going to have to make a move. DS, though, is eliminating. You see Oath now taking shots into 303.
There we go. 303 finally, finding a nice little team hype for themselves there, getting some kills. I mean, they had 12 coming into the day, so it's nice. At least they've gotten 4 so far. They're going to be moving, but yeah, this is very rough because there's, as you said, there's still a lot of water in the circle. On top of the fact that, aside from Puerto, which you'd have to rotate past some few teams anyways, there's really not a lot to play. And Fiumba, again, with this very wide split, is going to be able to, at the very least, deny or dissuade teams from coming in on that west side, which Akreshe is going to most likely look to do.
We see that good repositioning. That might actually allow 303 to get in easily. Meanwhile, Veritas, again, another team, did have a chicken dinner earlier today. We'll pick up a second one we've been talking about right now, so keeping that pressure on Oath. I mean, every time I see these vehicle repositionings with Oath drives through so many teams, I get really nervous because we've seen them lose player after player each time during one of these wraps. Ethan is going to connect some damage, but no knocks coming out just yet on the members of Oath.
Yeah, and luckily for Oath, I mean, they have a lot of room to work with at the very least on the northwest, but even still, once they potentially take the compound that's in front of them, that warehouse, and move forward or try to move forward, they really are going to have to contend with, at the very least, Veritas or even Fiumba taking shots at them. As we now watch over here, Dodge.
Like this here. Sonic's really repositioning up onto that hillside, and speaking of repositioning, TSM as well, as actually gas cans are just going to start to push back further into Puerto Paris, so if they don't need to leave the city just yet, still in the zone. You can actually see Hikerman spotting out Kurt.
Oh, that jump.
Oh, no. Oh, Greg shot.
Oh, he went for a drop
that
shot.
Angle is so nasty. He got Kurt knocked down. Adam with the flush. You can see Luke trying to return it there through the fence, but it's just too late.
Oh man, and that's the unfortunate thing again. Like Purdy was just unfortunately up there alone. He wasn't there for a trade. I mean, yeah, Luke was watching the angle, but the way Gas came in was perfect. I mean, they came in. Yeah, Greg got knocked, but that was after even still he got the knock on Purdy and could have traded and shots through the smoke. Nikos is gonna find Luke 12, but luckily Finn is actually gonna find Nikos, so they should be able to get Luke 12 up here.
A Dodge actually up the hill across the street. They've got, you can see just that orange off in the distance. They've got an angle onto this, so helping out TSM just a little bit. Hikerman not quite in a position to get that res yet. You can see Alo actually was keeping some throwables out there, preventing Hikerman to close the gap, get that res off. But Adam, Greg shot. Still having keep their watchful eye on the rest of TSM, who was able to recover. You can see Penta, though, still a little low, and flashes coming out left and right. Luke 12, though, we can get back around behind this.
And Luke 12 is actually, he's pretty much been the lurker or the off-angle guy for TSM FTX. For the most part, he's getting shot from behind now. This is so rough. Shonosan Alo needs to make a play here. He's got to bail Luke out.
See Luke down to 19 HP. That vest is absolutely torn. He doesn't have the time to heal just yet. Trying to see if he can get any knock here to help out the rest of the teammates to push on to Adam. Greg shot is going to fall here. And right as Adam comes to the door, getting spotted by Pinsa.
Very clean. Much cleaner from TSM FTX. That was good. little toe shot right there. Not to damage the vest or the helmet. Like to see it. And now TSM FTX have taken complete control of this. And yeah, a big part of that, to be completely honest, though, was being helped by Dodge. And, you know, Luke 12, I mean, you'll talk about Luke 12. He has the most kills and damage on Miramar going into this game. Not surprising.
It looks like as well, there you go. Gas cans are eliminated. It was actually going to be Alo to get that final kill. And Cresce spotted out as well. We saw a picture-in-picture a little bit earlier that SSG going through Cresce and Oath. So Balefrost is going to fall here as well, but still two members standing up for Oath. Meanwhile, Fiumba taking on what's left of SSG still hasn't managed to get themselves into the circle yet.
You know what I have been really impressed with Fiumba, though, is the fact that they've been really able to dictate whatever edge they're playing on, right? We saw earlier that they had a pretty aggressive split coming in here on the southwest, but it worked out for them. The other thing about this team that I like a lot is they've really kind of nailed down when they want to consolidate their members off of those splits. And so far, as I say that, beautiful shots from Snakers onto the dome of DraftKings. Yeah, so far I've been really impressed with Fiumba's kind of early game macro there.
I mean, as you kind of say, I mean, in the past, I think we've seen some performances out of LATAM. We'd say, oh, this was a good game, or that was a good play, or things were circumstantial. Now we can really just say that the plays that some of these teams are making are consistency. They are there at every level. And so right now, TSM, SSG, two teams that we've really been watching here on the mid game, starting to fight with one another. Good trade come out. Roth getting the knock onto Alo. Pinto actually hanging out in the blue to see if he can spot more members of SSG coming up above Roth there on the high ground. But nade might be enough, but they need to act quick. The blue still closing in here.
I am shocked. That bounce actually may have just saved the last member of SSG. It's going to be Roth. Luke has to step back into the blue. That's going to do it, but
oof.
I highly doubt he gets pent up. In fact, I'm not even sure he survives this himself. We'll have to see. Sonic's just on the south.
I'm surprised he even got that first aid kit off. The pressure that he got from Fiumba, and you can see even Mime, Sonic's read the kill feed, knew exactly who's here, and I think he actually had to go back in for more supplies, with the circle pulling back away from this. I think it's safe to say that that's probably going to be it for TSM, though we've seen Luke 12 pull off miracles before. But this circle doing great favors for Veritas. Again, could this potentially set them up for another win?
It very much could, but even still, I'd say if Luke can grab enough meds, he can actually kind of sneak his way into the circle, right? Sonics is going to have to move forward and fight. 22 is in a prime position to really hold them out. And then even Fiumba, they don't have to commit to the south, but they're going to have to deal with Oath if they go a little bit north there on the west side of the circle. So it's possible Luke sneaks in, and at the very least, I'm still looking at Sonics, and I'm wondering what their play is, because it's going to be a rough way in.
Yeah, I mean, looking where the zone was, you can see just ahead there of TSM, you've got Fiumba to the left, 22 up ahead, and Sonics need to work their way in that spot between 22 and Fiumba if they want to get in the zone. Now with Luke 12 going out, they can kind of let that edge go and focus on getting into the circle. Sonics along the edge has not been working as well for them when we get to the late game as we've seen sometimes. So the earlier that they can get some of that extra information, or even the foot up on one of those other teams could be better. But you can see Mime now fallen into blue, and so Shrimsy Tickleton have no choice, but to leave him behind and take the fight to Fiumba.
That's just have to push forward, and this is because Fiumba has refused to move into the circle early. They want to make sure that they don't get backfilled, which is, again, that's a wise decision. Unfortunately, it's at the cost of the players of Sonics trying to move in as well, and so because of that, this is looking rough. This is looking very rough for Sonics. Shrimsy's going to get knocked. It's just down to the last member now. And it's
actually going to be some help from 22 Esports. Again, one of those teams we talked about. Sonics, we're going to have to be a little bit worried about when they get into the zones. That Tickleton still keeping his eye on Fiumba, making sure, see if he can get some kind of damage. But Shang Tsing, again, I mean, Shang Tsing's been absolutely popping off.
Agreed. He's been very good for Fiumba. No, there's no question about that. And because I mean, honestly, all members of Fiumba have been firing off. But yes, Shang Tsing has had some incredible clutches so far for them. And 1 FPS, what is your clutch? Are you going to take out all
I mean, you know, anything is possible at this point, as we've seen. We've seen a couple of 1v3s work their way, so...
I mean, we've seen a 1v5, technically, I think, when Huynh, because he had a knock rest, but yes.
I love this patience, though, because you're almost wondering, like, if 303... has any idea that And1 is this close to them right now? I'm not sure if this is them combing through the area. Maybe they got into a fight with them earlier. There was some shooting, but a lot of that was kind of crossfire between Dignitas and Dodge that's going off just a little bit further to the south. And so you can see And1 does hear all the members of 303, but he's not taking this chance. You know, 1v4, there's no coming out on top of this.
Generally, no. As long as they play together, right? There's probably not. And then if you want to talk about, I mean, Shanjing so far, I mean, he's now 3rd in total damage dealt as well, and that's just overall in the event. So he's definitely been putting in quite a bit of work for Fiumba thus far. And 1 FPS for Young Kings. I mean, he's just hanging out right now. I don't imagine he really has many plays to make, specifically with Veritas just kind of hanging out, just waiting for any of these teams in the north. They're going to hear those shots, and now N1 FPS is in a world of trouble.
Yeah, you see H11 Junior wastes no time. Quick flush. Young Kings now out in 8th place, and 303 can rest assured that they've finally cleared out this angle. But, I mean, again, you talked about Veritas. Veritas has the compound here inside the circle. They're really one of the few teams that have coverage that's not a little bit of a hill or a dip here. Like, you can see Oath playing on the opposite side, and with Fiumba being pressured into them by 22, it's not looking good. We've seen what happens when Fiumba gets sandwiched like this in the late game, and it doesn't typically work well in their favor. But 303 crashing now into Veritas' compound. They want to challenge them for this position.
Ethan, no. Possibly got knocked with a molly in his hand, or he got shot out of his hand. We didn't get to see it, but now Veritas 3 members up. 3L3, I mean, again, I've been talking a lot about this team being disappointing. This is their opportunity to potentially take a game-winning position off of Veritas.
JR is going to get the knock onto Faiska. You can see Danny G, man that we got to talk to in an interview earlier today, laying in more damage here for Veritas, but right now trying to get as much coverage as he can, some smoke, some flashbangs, but that push from 303 up the stairs is going to come eventually. You can see right now Veritas trying to set that up. Meanwhile, Dignitas, Dodge, still at it, back in close range. They try to get themselves into the zone. Dignitas getting themselves a better position up onto Dodge. Might actually be able to prevent them from getting into the zone. You're not in the circle just yet.
And Dig has been mostly quiet this game, but that's simply because of the fact that they've been able to just kind of hang on to their position and kind of just bully teams away from them, or just shoot teams off, and specifically because of how difficult the circle is to navigate as well, right? Not a lot of vehicles as options, mostly playing on foot, but this is where Dig excels, and this is where they absolutely should excel. And just like that, yeah, very, very clean wipe coming out onto the unfortunate dodge.
A good reward of 4 extra kills there is now Dignitas sitting on 5, and they can turn their attention back to 22. 22, we heard that shooting. It was actually into Oath. Oath and 22 both took care of Fiumbo. Again, we talked about with sandwich between those two teams. Once again, not ending well for them again as we're down to our top 5. Dignitas, I mean, they do still need to get in a better position into the zone, and they need to do so where they're out of line of sight from 303 and Veritas to the north. So as long as this fight's still going on, I think Dignitas should be okay.
Okay, at the very least, H11 is going to get that trade. Danny G now going for another knock. Oh, he went for it. I respect it, but there we go. 303. You know, not at the expense of Veritas, obviously, but I'm finally glad that 303 has done something. They've doubled their kills in this one game.
From that.
Yeah, that was very well played. Meanwhile, Oath still fighting over here with 22 Esports on this very lonely edge. I mean, this is going to be a difficult edge to get in, even if Oath manages to get rid of 22. Let's look at Dignitas moving on the south, hearing this fighting, wanting to third party. It's more kills for them. And Dig really in quite a commanding position as long as they can just really spoil this fight between these two teams.
Dignitas up here in the top 4. They've made it to Circle 7 and beyond 3 times. And they are 3rd in total kills, 4th in damage. So if they can get this chicken dinner, it's going to lob them up the side of the leaderboard. But you can see right now, Oath starting to make things a little bit difficult for 22, down to just 1 player, and find themselves now eliminated. Points split there between Dignitas and Oath. Oath down to just kickstarts. Are we going to see Dignitas or 303 get the first chicken, or is Oath gonna pull off a miracle?
I mean, it is kickstart, you know what I mean? It's possible, but I think it's probably unlikely on the fact that Dig is firing on all cylinders right now, and so is 303. Look at this, they hear the fighting, they've taken complete control of the circle for the most part, and now Dig is going to have to figure out a way to kind of get them out of those positions. At the very least, if they can get a knock, they'll have quite a lot of room to work with as far as forward momentum, but that H11 is going to find a headshot. Honey Badger's going to go down, and even more damage now coming out from 303. Yes, this is what I want to see, 303.
I mean, you can see it on the mini-map. 303 has really taken over position and control of what's left here in Phase 7. They've kind of bullied Dignitas down to the south, and with Kickstart still alive, they need to be a little bit careful not to really discount him just yet. That said, H11 Jr. coming down will pick up 1. It's traded. Trisk, last still up for 303. No time for the res. Can he get another knock? But he's spotted out by Shimboy. Dignitas should be able to recover. It's a 2v1, 3v1 if they can get that res.
Kick, this is it. This is your opportunity. You're never going to get a better opportunity off of that fight. Dig desperately wants this win, and so does Oath. A 3rd win would put them in 1st place. But Kick now on the very outside, a fully recovered Dig now with 3 members up. I mean, this is... I feel like the time he had to strike was when that fight had just concluded. Unfortunately, he was a little out of position. As a solo, you can't blame him. But yeah, this is going to be a tall task for any player.
Yeah, I mean, all members of Dignitas know exactly where Kickstart is, and I think the only thing really working right now in Kickstart's favor is the fact that Dignitas is still quite bunched up, and he does still have this ridge line to play from on the side of the zone. But, you know, his helmet, it's pretty damaged. So 1 shot to the head, that could be all it takes to end this here. Give Dignitas that win that we've been talking for. So elusive. You can see 66 kills. 1 chicken dinner will put them up into 5th place. And if they can get a 2nd win for the day, that could be our winning team this weekend.
Absolutely, which makes things so interesting as well. Because if you look at 8th place, I mean, it's Sonics with no dinners, and I mean, there's a possibility they don't even make it in the top 8. We'll have to see. 1 game left, but it's really still about this. Dig is just pretty much being very methodical about it at this point. They're playing very correct. 1 member in the off angle, 2 members playing together for the trade. They know exactly where Kick is as far as where he could be, right on this ridge where he was before.
And they're taking it slow.
Yeah, they're taking their time.
Dig didn't just push and rush this. They didn't allow Kickstart to turn the things in any of their favors. And although they are taking on some damage right here, you have Poonage on the off angle. Punish Kickstart just a little bit, getting him down to 50 HP. That's going to push him back one more time.
Oh, no. Okay. There's no reason to deny. You might as well go for a kill, right?
Yeah, have some fun with it. There you go. Dignitas finally does it there. Punage in the end with the headshot, and Dignitas with the first chicken on the board take a big leap into 5th place.
Man, that's got to feel good, though. That's got to feel really good for Dignitas finally getting that win that has so eluded them as well as many other teams. But I also want to give a massive shout out to 303. That was actually, I think, the first time they had made it to circle 7 or 8, I think. And yeah, they only made it there once before that. So 303 coming in huge, doubling their kills. They had 12 kills going into that, and I think they got 13 by the end of the game, which is massively impressive. And thank goodness, because I was getting really worried that what I'd said about them early in this weekend wasn't going to come to fruition. But yeah, 303, man, finally playing some PUBG.
Yeah, and, you know, again, a huge shout out as well to Kickstart, once again, putting in that work. You know, Oath kind of came into that late game a little bit broken, small, and they once again, even as out of full roster, managed to pick themselves quite a lot of kills and show that presence through the late game. So it's just that extra win. I mean, so many teams coming in today. We talked about that 4-way tie with teams that had 2 wins apiece. Thus far today, though, we've had 3 different winners that have not yet been on the board. So that's going to make things going to be very, very close going into the last game of that day. But I mean, before we get there, we've really got to talk about this Miramar matchup. And once again, water being a huge factor into play in the early game.
Yeah, this was a very rough circle for all the teams involved. I mean, again, there was a massive amount of water that was this was actually really out of control. I don't think we saw this. That was yeah, that was unfortunate there for the member. Trog actually got absolutely just wiped. They got demolished coming into this game. They tried to make a really crazy rotation. 2 of their members died to one team. I think the other 2 members died to another. We saw TSM FTX trying to fight on that south side of Puerto, and then realistically, Space Station Gaming. Man, Clover, a team, yeah, that's it. It's a sigh, right?
It is. I mean, you know, when this team came together in the beginning of the year, I think a lot of people were wondering how this roster was going to work, because it's a lot of strong personalities, and on paper, it's a great team.
Yes.
But obviously, things aren't quite working in terms of their ability to call things. Maybe they're IGLing. I'm not quite sure what it is, because again, these are all really talented people in all of those regards. But something just isn't working.
There's a lack of cohesion with that team for whatever reason. They're not. Yeah, it seems still like there's some individual play going on when there needs to not be, and unfortunately for SSG, it's just been rough. I still believe in the team. If they can bring it together again, this is another bad weekend for them, but hey, they still have 1 game left, and yeah, they still have a weekend next week. But overall, Space Station's been disappointing for sure. 303 has been as well. But at the very least, I mean, this was a competitive, you know, back and forth as well between them. But ultimately, it was Dig that was able to get the best of it. And that's without the help of Kick really soloing against 303. So very impressive victory coming out from Dignitas as well.
But as you said, teams that believe, and we believed in Dignitas all weekend long. They finally picked it up there with 1 chicken dinner, 13 kill points. But you can see 303 picked up 13 kills as well. And so I think it's safe to say you're going to see a little bit of a jump out there from the bottom. But I mean, again, Oath, Fiumba, some of those teams with 2 wins apiece picking up a couple more kills. So if nobody else is able to break that 2-win tiebreaker, things could be really interesting going into the last match.
Yeah, on top of the fact that, I mean, it may just come down to kills as far as the top 8, to be completely honest. Unless we get like a repeat winner again, it may just very well. And 303, I mean, showing some signs of life finally. But Oath, yes, they had a slow start, but they're really starting to kind of kick off their game plan. Again, we saw what they did in the tower, which, as Poro said, we've seen Snakers up there so many times before, just farming damage and kills. But yeah, Oath is starting to come alive, and they still have 1 more game. I definitely wouldn't count them out for getting this last win. At the very least, you know, getting many more kills in order to skyrocket themselves. Well, not skyrocket, they're already in the top 5, but, you know, climbing up the leaderboard, maybe towards 1st or 2nd place. We'll have to see.
Well, and you know, when you put out a good point, Sonics right now in 8th place going into this last match of the day. I mean, do you think there's a possibility that teams might try to hot drop them or just deny them money on the board and placements at all for this week if that opportunity is there?
Not really, because I feel like there's still quite a few teams that have a chance to make it in the top 8 and make some money. So I doubt that just immediately going to kind of hot drop Sonic. Maybe if they had 2 wins and they were potentially going to win the week, but I don't really think that's going to be the case. I think Sonics will still play their game. I think all the teams around them will still play their game. And we're probably not going to see very many hot drops, if any.
All right, well, guys, we're going to go to a very short break. When we return, we'll have an interview and hear from the desk before we go the last match of the weekend. So, guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, everybody. We are back again after game number 3, which followed Dignitas getting their first win. And we have an interview now with a player from that squad, Mr. Sparking. How you doing, sir? Congratulations on the win.
Hello, everyone. Good night, good evening. I don't know your time, but how you guys are doing?
Well, we are doing fantastic.
Right.
Got to be doing pretty well yourself after getting that win. I gotta ask before I throw it over to the boys. I heard that you have a lucky T-shirt that you wear for the games. Are you wearing that
I'm
shirt
wearing
today?
this one. It's this
There
one.
it is.
It's this one. I'm not kidding. It worked. It worked.
It clearly does. Hypoc, what you got?
Finally.
Hey, I mean, the question is, have you not been wearing that one for the last few days of play, or does it just come out tonight?
Man, I was wearing. That's the problem. I was wearing. That's the problem. So I don't know if it's lucky or it's us. So I think it's us.
I mean, the second question I had, I mean, obviously, congratulations on the win. It's I feel as if it's been a long time coming with the guys, where you guys have been playing. I guess just leading into the next game, is there anything really you're going to take away from this now? Are you guys going to make any sort of changes that you don't have that pressure to finally put a victory up?
Of course, we're aiming for the second chicken dinner because we're playing really good. We are stacking kills, and it's just the final decisions and the final fights is being kind of harder. But we're aiming for this second win, and I don't think we're changing anything. Just trying your life every time, trying to play for up every fucking game. Oh, sorry. But it's just,
no, you're fine.
It's just
we love
it. Man, I'm Brazilian. It's kind of hard to not say these words, you know. So yeah, we just.
It's hard for me
just
as well.
play our game.
We're Texans. It's hard to say all. All right, so I was commenting the fact that Dignitas are the Gravediggers. And you guys, I don't know if you know this, but you are now damage and kill leader for the event so far right now. So congratulations on that. My question is, you've played on a lot of teams on the Latin American side on this, and now you're kind of playing on the North American side. How does that feel to be going up against people that you used to play with? And are there certain teams that you like to go after, or players? Maybe that feel a little bit good when you kill them?
Yeah, it feels good. When I kill people, of course, it feels good. Always good, but... yeah, it feels good to play NA. I left LATAM because I was looking for a new challenge, and when LATAM I was feeling I was inside my comfort zone, and I don't like that. I like to improve. I like to be better than yesterday, like every day, like every game. So basically, changing to NA makes me like challenge myself to be better and better and better and better. And also playing a new language is another challenge. So it feels great to be here, to be honest.
Well, great job, man. And again, congrats on kill leader right now. So apparently it's working. Boro, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's all good. I know my man has to get ready for the final game. Once again, congratulations on getting that win. Is there any shout outs that you want to give before we let you go?
Just one shout out for every fans who's cheering for us, and we're coming for the second chicken dinner today. So yeah, see you guys.
Let's get it. All right, well, good luck, man. We'll see you in game number 4, which I'll start here very, very shortly.
Thank you.
So, Dignitas finally, it seems, gets that victory that has been elusive for so many teams that have been performing, I gotta say, well up until this point. One game left, Hypoc. What do we look at? Do you think Akreshie is going to be able to hold on? It's getting kind of dicey.
I mean, this is the thing, right? Is that now it becomes that kind of momentum shift, right? If you're the team that puts a victory up there like that, I mean, look at it. The kill count alone stands out to me. This is a real opportunity here for Dignitas to just go all out in this last game, right? And if anything, the pressure is on the top two to hold on to this, right? Those are the two that are in close contention to each other. It's this outside variable now that becomes the biggest weight, I think, on the leaderboard.
Absolutely, Matt. We've seen it a million times where the team that's trying to hold that lead in the final game ends up playing too safe, playing too cautious, too close to the vest, and they end up losing it at the last minute. Do you think that might be something that we're looking for here?
I think there's the capability. I mean, you saw, I was excited to talk to Sparking, man. I firmly believe that Dignitas is on a roll right now. They haven't been getting the chicken dinners up until this stage. But with one left, I mean, we know that this team has the capabilities of doing it. Now the question comes into play that they've got that first chicken dinner. Is that going to give them the confidence to go for the firefights? Because, boy, when you're looking at Sparking, you know that boy's confident after that one.
Oh, yeah.
The question comes into play, the rest of the team, you know that they're really confident. What can they do now?
And he's got the lucky shirt on and everything, right? Hi, bye. Okay. Keeping in that same vein, we now have what I don't even know how many teams, but a pretty damn decent number of teams that have no shot, right? Zero wins. Even if they do get a win, they're not probably going to hop up too much. Does that create kind of an extra level of chaos for these teams at the top trying to get that to secure that win?
Yes. That's the short answer to that question. Like, it just becomes so difficult now with, especially like, we talk about there's three real contenders here in my eyes, and it's the top two and then Dignitas, as I've already said. Now, for all three of those teams to now navigate their way through the chaos that will ensue in this last game of potentially, you know, somebody trying to put something up. Again, we're looking at some of these other teams with decent kill counts that can still put one win up that might sway things a little bit, at least on this weekend's standings. Which is why it's so difficult, right? And again, it's refreshing to hear Sparking obviously say, yeah, we're coming through, and this is one that we now want to win even more so because we've got a victory in the previous game, right? Before that, you could say, actually, let's continue doing what we're doing, guys, right? Let's focus on just keeping the ball rolling, so to say. So it does become really, really difficult here. I mean, we saw, I'll be honest, hints of that in the previous game, if I'm honest, especially in the early game from a couple of other teams. So my heart goes out to them, man. If you're one of those three teams that's got to, you know, last through this madness,
it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
So okay, Matt, we've talked a little bit about Akreche and how well they're performing and kind of holding on to that first place spot. I want to give a little bit of a shout out to Fiumba as well. You know, I think they took a lot of flack for that second win they got, in which, you know, they basically survived the Dignitas TSM fight and got the second W. But since then, they've been putting kills up on the board, and they've been constantly a fixture in the late game.
And I think that's a statement in and of itself. We just saw a 20 kill team and a 20 and 12 kill team fighting it out. One of those being Dignitas. We're talking about how much kills are going on for them.
Yeah.
But they played that well. They didn't have clear sight lines to TSM. They wanted them to fight. There's a beneficiary in that, and they played it efficiently. That's what it comes down to. Sometimes it's not always about getting the kill. It's about getting the position. But I do also want to point out, Sparking on Dignitas, Latin America, Akreche and Fiumba. There's a lot of Latin America we're talking about right now.
A lot of Latin America, and as we brought up and mentioned before going into this, there's a lot on the line in terms of PGC points, and getting that week one victory will go a long way to securing themselves a maybe overall victory. We'll have to see. But we are ready to head into our final game of the day, so let's throw it over to Godspeed and Clover to finish it up.
That's good. There you go. LATAM. There is a lot of LATAM that has been here to play this weekend. I feel like it's been a bit of the story that we've been talking about a whole lot, Godspeed. But once again, to mirror what those guys said, we've still got that four-way tie between those teams with 2 wins apiece. We've now got 3 new teams today with 1 win on the board. Sonics, still nothing to show for it. If they can get 1 win, that will put them back up into 5th place. Or we can get a repeat from one of these 7 other teams that could change everything.
There's also the possibility of one of the teams that currently doesn't have a win under Sonics getting that win and pushing Sonics outside of the top 8. I mean, that's a very real thing that could happen. But I also just want to give a shout out and a huge thanks to Sparky, man, for doing that interview. I love Sparky. I don't know how you could not like that kid. And he's very clearly an incredibly impressive player. And I love his mentality and his mindset. And honestly, I feel like that's why he's found success. I feel like that's why he's found himself on a team like Dignitas. And that's why that team is doing so well. On top of the fact that, yes, you have Shinboy, Punage, and Honey Badger, who are also incredible players. But yeah, the fact that that's not even his native language, and Sparkin has now come into a roster and played out of his mind. He's a special player, man. He's a special kid, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do, even going into next week in the events further. But last game, can they win it, Clover? Can they actually bump themselves up to first place after, you know, chasing dinners for so many games this weekend? We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see for sure. And I mean, already off the bat, this flight path kind of triggering a couple of different possible cruel circles. Los Leones might be one of them. We could have a chicken wing out to the south. Earlier in this week, you know, we had that split on the western Mesa Ridge where we see Hikerman landing. So there's a lot of possibility for some gnarly circles to start this one with such a low flight path, which is cutting off a lot of places that we do see teams loot. One, you know, most notably San Martin, Pozo, Al Zahar, all kind of out on this one.
I mean, the Hacienda as well. Look at TSM FTX. They're not going where they normally do. And yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, honestly, just looking at this, the south is going to be bunched up quite a bit. Obviously, the north mostly cut off. And where is that circle? I'm very curious what this bad boy is going to do.
Are we going to finally just get an island circle? Like, are we just going to really throw a wrench into
Probably
everything?
not. As much as I'd love to see it. Okay, I mean, this is an MPL circle then, I guess, West Coast MPL. We've definitely seen one of these, but this one is not as egregious as the one we saw last time, where most of the, I'd say quite a bit actually, leaning towards half of the circle was in unplayable areas. But this is also interesting in the fact, Clover, that even though this is the first time you are casting this specific circle, again, Matt and I did this yesterday. I'm curious if any of the teams will make some adjustments or try to play it out mostly the same.
You know, and it's a kind of question that I have as well. I mean, because this type of circle, that area that we see Hikerman, even kind of SSG, right? There's a lot of high and low grounds. And so depending on where the circle could go, that could really make some of those later rotations or even the positioning that some of those teams really like to take kind of difficult. And it's going to really rely on a bit of some early calls for where they want to put up in terms of maybe getting themselves in that center position. Because, I mean, as we know with Miramar, we get those crazy shifts.
Yep, and I see exactly what Roth is doing, and that is, in my opinion, the best potential play. He's going straight up to Rumbler's compound, or that high ground compound just south of Monte Nuevo, and he's going to take that. That is a very, and let me tell you from experience, Clover, a very prime location to be in this circle. I mean, you have sight lines on basically the entire circle. You can see all the teams around you. You can also see if a team is potentially pushing you. The most dangerous push in that compound that Roth is in is probably going to be from the west, but even then you can see most of what's happening around you. So that is, if there is ever a game for SSG to win, if the circle continues to center up, that is the position they're going to want to play from. That's basically what I'm getting at.
And here we go. Now in game, Cresce currently in first place with 60 kills, tied 4 ways with their 2 chicken dinners. Veritas had that chicken earlier today, right now with 47 kills, a second win. Could put them up into 3rd place if they can take care of gas cans early, as we watched gas cans get themselves into that position. So again, there is a big potential for so many different teams either transition to 1st place or 2nd place. I mean, so much different money right now. None of it guaranteed to any of the teams on the board just yet, including Sonics.
Yeah, and Sonics, I mean, if anything, really want to just get the win here, not only just for moral victory here, and the fact that all of us, I mean, thought that Sonics were at least going to come out of this with 1 or 2 chicken dinners. But the fact that if a team under them gets a dinner, they're out of the money completely. The only thing that's holding them in 8th place right now is kills alone.
Mm-hmm. And Oath, you know, managed to play catch up right now, sitting on 36 kills. They did not have a very kill aggressive week. And in fact, aside from the 2 wins that they had earlier this week, they didn't really have much of a late game presence either. And so with those 2 wins under their belt after Friday and Saturday, really were able to kind of turn the gears just a little bit, focus on catching up in terms of kills, and in doing so actually managed to get very close to a few wins. But SSG, another team that we've kind of been talking about throughout the day as just middling. Something's just not really coming together that you want to see. And we talked about Roth scouting out that position earlier, so curious to see if that's going to be the change that we need to make. But Dignitas coming off that win, right now 67 kills, leading in terms of the teams with the 1 chicken dinner apiece. Mm-hmm. I mean, in terms of Miramar performance, this is kind of the team. They're top in kills. They are also top in knocks when it comes to Miramar, tied on TSM. So curious to see if we can see them get that 2nd chicken dinner and potentially that 1st place for the weekend.
It's very possible for a team like Dig, especially on Miramar, but I'm going to kind of hit you with something on the flip side, Clover, okay? Something a little bit on the other side of the coin. Right. No chance, okay? Okay. They're a team that's struggling right now, and looking at stats, there's actually 10 players that have more kills than the entire NC team. That is kind of an issue, and I'm not really saying that to flame or be toxic, but I mean, they have 15 kills out of, at this point, this is now the 12th game. I mean, they really need to drastically change something, because it's very clear that whatever they're doing right now is not working at all. We've obviously seen a lot of crashes where they're just kind of sending it, very desperate plays, and they really need to become a little more measured, because this is looking very dire for them at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, again, No Chance is a team with really good tenured roster. You know, like all the players have so much experience that come from good teams, but something just is not working for them. And as you talked about, and they really got themselves in those early drive-by plays. And unfortunately, another team that's kind of had a similar fate has been TSM, as Kurt actually is going to get knocked by Vegas. Lampalot Finna making sure that is an easy flush there. And again, I mean, something not quite coming together for TSM. They're not really performing at the level that we saw from them from the group stages, or even that we've seen them perform when we have this mixed region matchup.
It just seems like timing is their issue right now. Like, I mean, at least with that rotation there, it's like little mistimings there, potentially being further behind. But sorry, going back to No Chance as well. Yeah, it seems like they've only made it to Circle 7 once, and their biggest hang-up is they die in Circle 4 and 5. So it is true, and that's generally when we see teams having to make those mad dashes, right? You see the hard shift. So if anything, if I had any advice for No Chance, it seems to be just take your time and make sure that you have a plan for the next circle, because it's very clear that they're not making it past the mid game.
And plan for the next circles. We've got a couple teams already pretty much centered where they wanted to be. Gas Cans actually kind of in a bit of a 2-2 split. You've got 2 pressuring up onto SSG, another 2 keeping a watchful eye on the Troglodytes out there towards the center. Meanwhile, the rest of the team's just about getting their way into zone. To see Fiumba just now crossing into the circle now as they're taking up onto the Church of Los outside of Chumacera, but going to continue on just beyond them. Veritas in the area, so they do need to be a little bit mindful. Silzen potentially the first to scout out some information for the squad.
And Chuma is honestly not actually the worst position to be in right now. Again, it's a little bit elevated, especially go towards the top side. They'll be able to see, at the very least, they'll be able to scout out what's going on at, you know, like I said, Rumbler's compound. They should be able to see what's going on just north of them, maybe seeing No Chance. And from there, they could make a rotation, whether they want to continue to go further south, or maybe they want to wrap and go a little bit east towards the north. So not a bad position. And again, Fiumba has been playing overall very, very well this weekend. They've made good decisions overall. They've had really good team fights. They obviously haven't had any issues really kind of going for aggressive kills, because they have 55. So overall, really like what we've seen from Fiumba all weekend, regardless of even if they have a bad game this last game.
Yeah, I think like kind of to mirror a bit of that aggression along with a Crushe, Fiumba does manage to get themselves into some scoring chances early and even in the mid game, but they know when to break away. And I think that that's one of the reasons we've been able to see them stay up in the mid to late game, get them those 2 wins, but also get them close to almost 3 a couple different times out of this. Crushe, similar circumstances, but I think we've also seen a Crushe fall a little bit short in some of that earlier fighting, especially amazingly enough against Troglodytes and some of the other LATAM teams that they've kind of been rotating onto in that phase 1 and phase 2.
Yeah, I mean, for them, it's even a little bit of like a little too much aggression, you know what I mean? Getting a little too overzealous. But regardless, what Crushe has been doing has been working, right? They're obviously doing quite well in first place, 2 dinners, 60 kills. It's not like they had 1 win. Sure, you could argue that was fairly easy for them to get. But the fact of the matter is they still, I think, got like at least 6, 7, or 8 kills in that dinner. So they've definitely not just kind of sat and let the game come to them. They've been pushing that pace, and sometimes, yes, that can kind of bite them. But overall, very impressive from a Crushe as well.
Really liking this repositioning that we see coming out from Dodge. Again, just kind of one after the other, sending everyone, leaving Finna behind just the last moment before they kind of re-clear and reposition. Again, 20 seconds now until phase 1 closes. We'll get an idea of where that phase 2 can pop. So much of the West right now is unplayable. A lot of it is on elevated ground. We see Dodge, Gas Cans, SSG trying to hold on to some of that high ground elevation should this shift to the West. But should it go to the East, they do have easy exits from this position, keep them from being trapped. That area is still going to be in a play.
That makes sense.
But Dodge, good way to come out of this. You see SSG already breaking off quickly, and it looks like gas cans might be able to restructure, but there's no reason for them to leave this just yet.
Not necessarily, but I really love what SSG there. It was risky. They had Roth at the compound where they actually, SSG got wiped by Sonics the last time the circle was in this area. But as soon as that circle popped, Roth was actually already moving. He was already moving just slightly before, and because of that, he was kind of like the anchor linchpin to potentially hold a position for them on the west side if it went there, but now he can consolidate with the rest of his team at Rumbler's compound, and now SSG seem primed to be in a good, or they're in a prime position, I should say, for at the very least the next circle or two. Most likely the rest of the game, I would imagine. And Dignitas now as well are starting to finally rotate in. They were just on the outside on the east side of the circle, and it does seem like it's a little more crowded on that side, so hoping they will at the very least be able to kind of make it through unscathed. But they have Fiumba, who, as we know, are very aggressive on their edge and what they're trying to hold, and Sonics as well. So most likely I can imagine Dig just kind of wrapping as far south as possible, potentially running into TSM FTX.
You can see as well back on the overview, 22 starting to wrap into a couple teams to the north. Dignitas actually going to hang down to the south after getting a little bit of pressure from shooting coming out from Fiumba. You can see DraftKings repositioning, see if he can keep that line of sight on the team as they continue their wrap. Maybe take a couple more shots, do some damage, potentially even find a knock here on Dignitas. Sparking leading the way for the rest of the team. Oh, that's actually a real good shot. It does like...
Yeah. If you look, he actually he pulled off and he's like, oh, I actually hit that shot. All right, I'm just going for another one. But no, this is very smart from Fiumba. This is exactly what they've been doing to teams, right? They necessarily, I mean, sure, they were going for knocks, but realistically, they were just shooting off Dignitas so they wouldn't even have to deal with them on their side of the circle. And that's exactly what they've done. Now we see Dig is rotating even further towards the south. In fact, they're going all the way south, wrapping around, which, to be completely honest, is probably their best bet. So good decision making from Fiumba to try to bully them off, and great response from Dig going all the way south to make sure that they at the very least get in safely on the edge. It's not the greatest place to play, but what they will be able to do from here, Clover, is get a lot of information, or at the very least enough information to move forward and start to piggyback or leapfrog, I should say, further in the zone.
I mean, Dignitas right now focused on getting that second chicken dinner. Second chicken dinner, again, will be enough to put them from 5th place into 1st.
Yep.
But, I mean, they got to do so carefully with patience, not rushing into things. And that's something that we have seen them made the mistake in the past, even just this weekend alone, costing them some wins. You know, Honey Badger is fantastic at playing that off angle for his team and getting that information, but sometimes can make him and the rest of the squad a little bit of vulnerable. So.
And you heard Sparking say it as well, Clover, in the interview, the fact that they know that sometimes it just comes down to like little late game decisions, right? And we've actually been saying that a lot. So the fact that they also realize that is huge because they can make adjustments. But yes, historically with this roster, even though it is also fairly new, I say fairly, they've got a few events now, but they do just need to, when it gets really critical, just slow things down just for a second and make sure that that play that they're making is actually the correct one, because it has led to their demise. Regardless, the shift is going to... It's going to go straight. Well, I mean, it's rough for Dig and TSM FTX, but it is beautiful for SSG, as well as 303.
I mean, this could be the break SSG needed to maybe finally get a place that they can play from. And we've talked about their inability to really rotate, wrap in from the edge. So getting to play from the center and do what they do best, which is shoot, could be well for them. But 22 really falling apart here as Vinny getting flushed out. Biznaga getting picked up too. Great shooting out there by Kickstart.
And it's just left. It's just up to Ruggy. And I don't even know. Yeah, he's just trying to desperately climb that hill with the Murado. It's probably not ideal. And to talk about, actually, if you really want to talk about SSG, they've been in a position where they were in one of the better spots in the circle before. So, yeah, I don't know. I can think of at least one other game where they were almost dead center and they fell to Sonics. Actually, it was in fact on Miramar's, that game I was talking about earlier. So, oh, and here comes Dig. They're flying down.
Oh, no way. He's still good. He's still driving on.
Stuck it.
Oh, yeah. Actually, worst time to reload here. We can see he's still getting those shots into Dignitas, but it's not quite connecting here. And they're able to drive by, but you got to give credit there, Taylor, keeping that pressure onto them and actually pushing them into pits. A good hurting, but he's actually going to get knocked down there by Honey Badger. Wastes no time to pick up that flush. Luke 12 trying to get another angle on this. Honey Badger, though, has to heal, trying to use the tires for covers. He's down to 12 HP, but Fiumba is close to this and could be a bit of a surprise for TSM and Dignitas, who might not realize they've got one in their midst here. And
already, I mean, we're just in phase 3. TSM is already down to 2 members. I mean, this is this has been the case for this team almost all weekend, and it's rough. It's very rough. As a TSM fan, it's not ideal. And very soon it looks to be potentially down to 1 member. Yep, that's going to be a knock for Alo. They should be able to clean that up unless Luke can make some sort of heroic play.
We've seen him do it before right now, trying to get that flush with the nade out onto his knock, see if he can get Poonage. Poonage actually is going to get stolen away there from Silson, so Fiumba still in this fight to do some kind of damage out from the side, but Luke 12 getting some shots there into Shinboy. Doesn't find the knock. The smoke wall coming out and try and give him a little bit of an exit strategy away. If he wraps to the north, he's going to take himself right to the mix of Shangjiang. If he wraps himself anywhere else towards Dignitas, not only vulnerable to them, but the rest of Fiumba.
I mean, at this point, Luke is just trying to get as much damage and maybe get a kill or 2. Regardless, the sad thing is if Luke does go down here, or I should say when he goes down, if that's the case, TSM is done for this week. 9th, 10th is their best finish. It's possible to even get pushed.
The curious thing is going to be, I think, if Dignitas is going to back off this at all, especially with this Fiumba fight potentially popping off. We've seen Luke 12 survive in the blue before. It's still early enough. He's got 3 first aids. But it looks like right now Dignitas also aware of the fact that, hey, you can't leave Luke alive in the blue, aren't letting off this just yet. So popping one of those first aid kits, still got 2 more to work with, actually getting a knock onto Sparking. So that's 2 members of Dignitas down now. Could really be ruining their day for them here.
Yeah, Luke is absolutely ruining Dig's day, entire weekend potentially here. Sparking is going to bleed out. Shinboy is knocked. It's just now down to the last member of Dig.
Oh, Honey Badger. I mean, this is a potentially huge trade here. If Luke 12 can knock out Honey Badger, that will be it for Dig's chance to win first place this weekend. Again, 69 kills would make them the kill leader if they could get 2 wins, and they are going to fall now. It is Silson with the last kill, Fiumba. Luke actually sees that, realizes this is his safe moment in, and there's a lot of meds ahead of them. So again, Luke 12 pulling off the impossible in the blue zone.
And it was at the cost of Dignitas potentially winning this week. He just absolutely crippled them. And this is actually, it's the 6th time, I think, this weekend. Shout out to Luke also for the stats. Love it. This is the 6th time Luke 12 has been the last standing member for TSM FTX.
And Fiumba still working on climbing up those kills. I mean, now with Dignitas a potential out, Fiumba, if they can get a 3rd chicken dinner or just farm kills this match, could solidify themselves a win for this weekend and kind of going up against a Cresce in terms of this final match. But see on the other screen, Gas Cans working their wrap on. They're actually driving in between. Quite a few teams are going to have a knock onto this as well. So things are getting really chaotic here in phase 4.
Chaotic would be an understatement, yeah, as we see.
Oh my gosh.
There's actually so much going on in the bottom right. It's madness. Gas Cans is just out of Nikos now.
And another 2-win team potentially out of the running here as Gas Cans down to 1.5. Looks like as they are going to have Greg Shot bleed out. And still, Veritas right now keeping that pressure onto Fiumba. No Chance has the potential to pull down into this and farm some kills off. Right now, they're just keeping their
There
heads
is
down.
no chance is going to do that. Like, I can tell you that right now. From the way that they have been playing, I don't... it's sad to say, but I really don't expect anything from that squad right now. They're just going to hunker down and hope and just pray that they continue to get circle and they can win a game off of it the way that Fiumba did. In the same position.
I agree with you, but
I mean that's just the reality.
That's been the play. Yeah, every time that they haven't kept their heads down, and even when they have, it just hasn't worked well for them. But right now, Cresce continuing out that aggression is going to trade out though. Kish falls down, and actually it's going to be kickstart. So third party from Oath into this fight as they're actually punishing Cresce for standing at the top of the ridgeline. But to see that res coming out just in the nick of time, Cresce still focused on keeping 4 up while the pressure on the edge of zone. Meanwhile, Veritas taking that push further into Fiumba, who's finally going to try and break away with their vehicles.
And Cresce is just, to be completely honest, is very ruthless. They're just continuing to push forward. They're going to find even more damage onto it, as in the background, Young Kings is going to get completely annihilated by dodges. Here comes this King. He's going to find beautiful. And Akrashe continuing to just do their thing, man. I love to see it. Really a squad that has leveled up quite a bit from the last time we saw them.
Yeah, and again, I mean, talking about kills and how much kills matter. Akrashe 63, Fiumba 57. I mean, this match could really make or break which one of these two teams comes out on top. Or, I mean, gas cans, it's not likely. But if Oath can get a chicken dinner, if they can stay 4 up, that could be another thing we might expect to see at the end of today. And
Silzen has actually managed to kind of sneak his way underneath the compound that SSG finds himself at. I'm fairly sure that SSG's heard that, but we'll see if they act on it. Meanwhile, Sonics and Veritas in a very crucial fight here on this side of the circle, because whoever wins this essentially gets to walk in for free. As gas cans are, or I should say the last gas can is on fire, and is that it? That is.
Ooh, Tiggleton. Oh, actually does get the knock. Finds a quick flush onto Danny G, but it is traded out. Veritas still with that high ground with Ethan and Lobes, trying to see if he can spot out H1, but that nade is going to get one knock onto Ethan. He took a little bit of damage from the blue, not too much. Lobes actually is going to fall here, getting a little help from SSG, and Sonics might be able to quickly recover this position from Veritas, but they still need to get into zone. Flush there onto Lobes, but there's still a member of Veritas standing. Sonics, though, waste no time, break away from this, but keeping that watchful eye on JR. H1 senses that there's still a player close behind him.
Oh yeah, they know exactly where JR is, or at least the general direction. And now it's just a waiting game. I mean, they have circle, they can just kind of skirt in a little bit. I do have to be careful getting shot by SSG from Rumler's compound, but it's all but a waiting game now for them to just figure out when or if JR is even going to make it out of the blue.
I mean, no chance actually breaking away from this and sending a couple out here. You can see Balkan, RDS, closing the gap just a little bit. Sonic's still not letting go from JR. Should fall to zone. There you go.
Yep.
H1 turning attention back to help out. It looks like Shrimsy has finally spotted the members of No Chance, who are out in the open. And as the puns we've been making all weekend have no chance to really get themselves any coverage from this fight. So good, easy flush
you know
there
what?
from Shrimpy.
You could argue they could have moved even sooner, right? They could have moved when SSG was very much focused on Sonics and shooting them while they're fighting Veritas. Then again, I'm not sure if only one member was holding them out, but now No Chance finds himself in a very, very rough situation in between SSG and Sonics.
The throwball's still out. Balkan hasn't broken away just yet and should not have, I think,
Sonics have to be careful,
to the
though.
SSG, but you can see Sharp Shot, Keenan starting to peek up, and there you go. Quick flush of No Chance, but the damage being returned in quick tandem there by SSG as H1 is going to go down.
That's exactly what I was afraid of. Pushing over and cresting to kill No Chance was definitely a solid play, and one of the plays they needed to make. The problem is SSG was so ready, or they were so ready in the position that they were at in order to really punish Sonics for doing that. Luckily, only one member was lost, so still 2 members of the Sonics alive, but now they still have to get into the circle, which this one is rough, especially on the south, because there's not much to play at all.
You know, and it feels like we've had a little bit of hunting from some teams that have been chasing either teams that were above them up on the leaderboard, or teams that they don't want to really clear, because we're down to 17 teams at 23 minutes left, but Dodge falling 2 here. Actually, they're gonna completely fall apart there. SSG do lose 2 and a knock. Actually, 3 now is 303. Throw a beautiful nade there, getting Keenan flushed out and Sharp Shot down, and they're actually going to push straight into this to see if they can take this back away from SSG, and they do. Eliminated in full. There's Senpai picks up 1.
All right, 303, starting to play some PUBG. That's what we like to see. Not bad. Obviously, yeah, that was a third-party gimme, but still, the fact that they were able to recognize that, push forward, and now what are they going to do with the position that they currently have? If 303 can end this game, even if it's not with a chicken dinner, but with a decent kill count and like a 2nd or 3rd place, that is going to be absolutely huge for their mentality and confidence going into the next weekend.
Yeah, and it's what we were talking about last game even, just to see 303 finally figure out that not only this lobby, but how to come together as a team and play the PUBG that we know they've been capable of. I mean, these are players that we've talked up time and again. Having a bad week, shake it off, going to next week even stronger. I mean, we've talked about kind of bad weeks. If Sonics can't come out of this with a win and another team takes a chicken dinner, this is, regardless of their kills, not going to be a great showing for them. And it's, again, been kind of a struggle in the mid game for them.
They just need 303 just needs to not win this game. If that doesn't happen, then Sonic stays in 8th, right? They get, I believe it's $1,000, so they at least get some prize money going to next week to potentially try to dethrone whoever ends up winning this, which, you know, could honestly be Oath at this point. Oh, spitting out.
And I think they've got a tire that's completely out, and try to get a little fancy at that drive-by. Unfortunately, the car is going to stop out in the open with nowhere else to really hide. Silzen shots into this as well, and only one member of Sonic's up. It's Mime, nowhere to go, trying to give themselves a little bit of coverage, but you can see everybody now looking in this direction. It's going to be 303 that picks that one up. We've got 3 LATAM teams up here at the top. Oath, once again, in a clutch for a potential third chicken, but so is Akreche.
Yeah, Akreche is in a good position, especially where LFP is. You see that right now. They have quite a bit of zone control, but Oath, on the other hand, also has quite a few ridges and things to work with. As long as they just get rid of Silzen, they'll be very much healthy going into the final couple shifts here. I should say the last shift, because realistically it's just one shift and then center.
I mean, you know, just kind of mirroring again, Akreche, Oath, Fiumba, all with 2 wins apiece. If even of them pick up 1 win, they will be a first place winner coming out of this weekend. 303, if they get just this as a chicken dinner, they'll knock out Sonics from the top 4 and take that position
top 8.
In, or sorry, top 8.
You're
take
fine.
that position at 8th place, potentially even 7th if they can outscore Troglodytes 34 points at the end of this
Yeah,
match.
if they can get 5 more kills, it's true. They jump from...
You got to give them credit to play this one slow. They've still got a good area to play from with these ridges. It's just really going to depend on, I think, how much breathing room Akreche gives them here.
Well, you want to talk around about a turnaround as well. The game that they would win here wouldn't have necessarily been the easiest, and where they got most of their kills in the last game was definitely not an easy game. I mean, 303 pushed multiple teams to get there, so they would have, at the very least, kind of earned some of their keep as far as, you know, turning things around, because they were very much floundering before these last couple games.
45 seconds till the zone closes. Fiumba try to make a run for it. Silzen, though, spotted out by Snakers. We're down to 3 full 4-stacked teams. As the blue zone closing in, we're getting ready to push into phase 8. Oath still got a bit of coverage, especially now that they've handled Silzen. And if Akreche and 303 choose this as a time to fight, that could be the breathing room Oath needs to set up here. You can see a nade from Akreche is going to get that opening knock onto 303 and destroy a little bit of their hard cover.
Oh, the nades now, yep, definitely playing a factor. Again, Akreche in a position where they don't really need to do much. They just need to kind of make sure they don't get pushed and crested over by 303. And Oath, although they're in a decent spot, not really an immediate threat to Akreche at all. So it's really just 303, who now is down to 3 members with 5 kills. Still at the worst, and this is actually what I was worried about for Akreche, the fact that 303 is just walking up on them as all of them are looking at Oath.
I mean, this is really mirroring game 1, day 1 here. We've got 2 teams starting to fight each other on the edge of the circle on a ridgeline. Oath hanging back and waiting to see what those 2 teams do to each other, not really wasting too many chances or resources, and seeing if they can clear up off the back with that with more control. So as the push now coming in, 303 onto Akreche. Trisk with an opening knock onto Viz King.
This is crazy. Oath might actually just win this weekend based off of this. They really just might. This team is crippled. Yeah, that's going to be a crippling defeat there for 303. And now here comes Oath. They're just going to clean it up, baby. This is unbelievable, man.
Whichever team wins this will be the winner of the weekend. Both teams with 2 chicken dinners apiece thus far. Akreche, though, with 2 players knocked down, and it didn't take long.
Unbelievable.
9 kills, jumps up to #1 on the leaderboard. Their 3rd chicken dinner of the weekend. And our first winners of week #1 here in ESL Masters Americas. Congratulations.
I said after that fourth or 5th circle, I was like, Oath may just win this game. And it was based off of the fact that 303 was in the closest position to push. Oath really didn't have to make that trek. But the reason they did was because of the fact that 303 got aggressive. The flashes were there. Knocks went out. They saw the perfect opportunity. And yeah, I mean, you can't fault them for the way they played that. That was pretty much perfect at the end game, and because of that, they get the 3rd dinner, and the team that barely qualified won week 1. That's crazy. Well done. Well played. Can't really say anything else.
I mean, I think, you know, we gave Oath a lot of slack because they came into Friday and Saturday you know, they found 2 chicken dinners on the first 2 days. They did so very low kills that kind of keep their head down till the late game. Then we come here into the 3rd day. They have an explosive first 3 matches. And then finally in that last game, once again, slow things down, play it methodically, and get themselves into that chicken scoring chance at the very end as we see them pick up the 3rd and final win of the weekend.
I mean, I can't even say I'm surprised. It's such an oath thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, just really slow start, not necessarily the best games, and all of a sudden, like on the last day, they either win or qualify, right? It's just such an oath thing to do. It's just out of control. But you got to give it to them. At the very least today, they played really, really well. They did a lot of things where I would say even going up and making that risky play when they rotated in that first air angle game to get up into that tower where we've seen Snakers in them so many times before. They were able to start farming kills. They were more aggressive, and they were able to turret Clover, which is exactly what Oath likes to do. They get in position, is really strong, and they just start raining down hell on all the other teams. And that's exactly what they did. And so we definitely saw the Oath we wanted to see in the last day for the very least.
And raining downhill real quick, I mean, while we're on this play with Fiumba, I mean, Silson and the rest of that team, just the amount of pressure, the throwables, the fragging, and the late game presence, just time after time, game after game, we really saw Fiumba and even a Crushe get themselves into those places where they could frag out, where they could potentially get a chicken dinner. They got 2 each apiece. We even talked about in the late game the potential that there could have also been a 3rd versus Oath in this game. I mean, that's the consistency that we love to see, and something that I'm going to be really looking forward to going into next week.
I just really hope that as far as Oath goes, they don't have the kind of, well, I want to say slow start, even though they won the first game. But after that, it was, you know, kill wise, and as far as watching them kind of rotate it was a struggle. But, you know, now that seems they've at least fixed some of the issues they've been having over the last couple of days. And today they really did play well. I mean, I really do mean that. So Oath, you know, they brought it back. They were able to win. But I also want to talk about Akreshe, right? Akreshe and Fiumba, as you were just talking about, Silson. These guys have not only come and showed up in a way that they haven't before in the past, but they really kind of put some of the teams here in the North American sub-region on notice, if I'm being quite honest.
Absolutely. And now we're quick match standings for the game that we just saw here. Oath with 9 kills, picked up the chicken dinner. Akreshe and Sonics another 7. So, I mean, again, Akreshe finding those scoring opportunities, and SSG stepping it up towards the end, had a bit of a better kind of play for that one. But again, I mean, 303, right? Just absolute impressive wake up at the end of the day. But take a look here at our kill and damage leaders from this last match as well.
But as far as 303, I do think it was a little too late, but the fact that they even were able to, as you said, kind of wake up and start playing was very important, because that, as far as the player's mentality, will help so much going into the next week as we kind of skim by these damage leaders. Shrimzy was also just so impressive over the course of this event. Silson, you talked about as well. But now I as much as we want to praise, you know, the teams that deserve it, I really do think there's a few teams that we need to talk about specifically. I mean, No Chance and Versus are 2 teams that have been, I mean, there's really no other way to say it, disappointing. And I'm really hoping that after this week is now over and they can go back and watch the VODs, they can make some adjustments, because they definitely need to make some adjustments there. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really safe to say I think they need to have a little more confidence in their own play.
Yes.
And kind of go into some of these fights with strategy. It just kind of seems like they've been bumbling around a little bit in terms of VS. They've pulled off a couple of cool kills here and there, but otherwise they've kind of fallen apart more times than we like to admit. No Chance on the flip side of that tend to keep their heads down a little bit too much, and then just always get caught off guard, and that's where we see I think their detriment.
That's actually a very good point. Caught off guard. It seems like anytime you watch a team fight with No Chance, they're not really team fighting, right? I mean, I think one of the best examples is one of Poro's favorite moments, and I'm just going to say it. He talked about a couple times in the green room, was the fact that push that Dignitas had, it was a 2-on-4 against No Chance, and I don't even think they fired their weapons once. They just died to throwables and mollies, or just got straight up shot up. So No Chance, you know, I'm not trying to be toxic, but there just needs to be a change. Something needs to change. You guys need to come back way stronger next week. Otherwise, I'm afraid it's going to be more of the same. So here's hopeful. Definitely good players. Make the adjustment, please.
As you heard Godspeed with his final thoughts, people need to come back stronger next week. From the teams that did not win, we'll have plenty of chance to rest and relax getting to do so. That's going to be it for the 2 of us this evening. But before we go, guys, make sure you do check out PUBG News State. You can go ahead and pre-register right now, newstate.pubg.com. Make sure you guys get yourself an opportunity to play, jump on Troy, join the Battlegrounds. But from Dustin and myself, that's going to be it for us. We're going to toss to a very quick break, and then we've got an interview on the desk to wrap up this weekend and talk more about our winners for today.
PUBG New State. Developed by PUBG Studio, PUBG New State will launch as a free-to-play experience on Android and iOS in 2021. Make sure you pre-register on newstate.pubg.com now. Hello, everybody. We are back once again, and we are done. Finished. Kaput. An Oath has taken the third victory and the first weekend champion. We have with us Kickstart. Kickstart, I see you wearing that lovely lime green jersey. Love to see it.
Just got to throw it on real quick for the interview. Trevor yelled at me real fast.
Well, after we give Snakers the ban hammer yesterday, we're glad to see you in here. But I gotta say, I'm gonna ask a question, right? I usually butter you up and let them ask a question. I have a question for you. After that second victory, you guys were having a hell of a hard time finding late game. Just all through the first 2 days, it seemed like, with the exception of the 2 wins. But today, it seemed like every time you were able to get to late game, you managed to get a bunch of kills. Were there any adjustments that you feel comfortable talking about anyway that you guys made from yesterday to today?
I don't think we really made any adjustments. I think we just played worse yesterday, like much worse, and we're getting trolled by some teams that we don't have to speak about. But I mean, yeah, it's obvious if you watch the games.
Fair enough. It's getting kind of spicy. Hi, Pac. You got something?
Obviously, congratulations in order. Thanks very much for stepping in for Snakers after yesterday's antics. But I've been really interested to see, obviously, you discussing around how things have become harder and harder for you being an Edge team and talking about team tendencies and anticipating other teams' moves. Is there anything from this weekend, I guess, that you're going to be taking away as kind of like learning from those comments?
Not really. Like, some of the teams in here right now, like, don't really move once they get into zone. Like, they just kind of sit in the white zone and just sit there. So we had to, like, look back at it and be like, okay, we just need to pretty much go around them. Like, somehow we need to get in front of them. And that's pretty much what we talked about last night. I don't think we really had to do it today. But, I mean, yeah, I mean, we'll take that forward going into ESL. But after ESL's over, I think we can drop that entirely. I think PCS will be completely different.
Okay.
Interesting. Talk about different play styles and how that affects you. We've often seen that last day can be beneficial for Oath, but you had a lot more success in what was moving into yesterday, which you said was your bad day. So I'm kind of curious, whenever you saw the chicken dinners that you got yesterday, where you only got one today, why do you feel that today is more successful? Was it just the kill counts where you felt like the team fights were going better? Was it just rotations? What about today felt more successful all in all?
I think today we're actually getting to shoot our guns, so that pretty much wraps it up.
That does help. That does help.
Yeah, it's a good starting point.
You don't necessarily need kills. Like, I mean, unless you're like a Sonics fanboy, like, I mean, I guess you need kills, but you don't really need kills as long as you get the win, I guess, right?
We're starting to get a theme with these Oath guys coming in for the interviews, aren't we?
Well, hey, I gotta say, you know, it took all the way to the final game of group stages to get that victory to make sure you qualified here. Now you stepped in and got 3 wins in 3 days, and that's what you're supposed to do in this format, right? That's what puts you at the top. That's what gets you in the nice driver's seat going into next weekend for those PGC points.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, I won the last game.
I guess I didn't even ask you. I didn't even ask you a question there. I'm trolling you here. I don't know what I'm doing.
You gave him nothing.
I gave you absolutely nothing. I'm sorry. Well,
congratulations, Kick. You now know what it's like to be on our side of this.
Well, okay, congratulations once again on the victory. I'm sure you guys are ready to go do a little bit of celebrating, maybe a little bit of trash talking. I'm sure that never happens. I've never seen it before in my life. Yeah, we'll see you in high ground. Did want to say congratulations on the house, but I am going to miss these interviews in the RV. Hopefully you keep it around because I've gotten so accustomed to it. Like, I love it.
Yeah, there's a sink right there.
Yeah, no.
There's a refrigerator,
and
got the
no
fridge,
dishes.
got the stove.
Like,
Convenient. It's just convenient.
Your house is way cleaner than mine is at this point. Maybe not high pop because he just moved in. So there you go.
Pretty clean still.
I don't have water connected to it. It's just in the backyard. So like, I'm better than Sonics in the backyard in a camper. Like, it's just, I don't know.
That's the headline. That's the headline of the interview right there. I love that.
I mean, honestly, it's kind of a sick setup. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us for that interview. And again, congratulations. We'll see you next week, probably, if the winning ways of Oath continue. Oh, any shout outs that you wanted to give? I got to hit that one.
Thanks to the coach, thanks to the girlfriend, thanks for the fans, thanks for the people that don't hate us in Twitch chat. Thanks to the people that do hate us. I love it when you guys at me. It's amazing. I'm so glad I talked yesterday.
well, I'll let you go and handle up on Twitch chat now because I know we got a little bit of a delay here, so I'm sure there's going to be plenty of fans in there adding the hell out of you. Go handle up on that.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Well, there you go. Oath gets that third win. And I got to be honest, man. Like, we were talking about the fact that they got 16 kills going into today with the 2 wins, but today they really, really turned up. 29 kills, and they managed to find late game every single time, Pac.
Yeah, and I think again, a lot of the things I've been referencing today, the Kickstarter's been talking about is it's difficult really when a team that so heavily, I guess, is oriented towards playing edge and finding kills with relative ease that then need to start thinking about, okay, how do we actually out-rotate these teams that aren't moving? Because they're always going to be that, 3 teams in each lobby, right? We've got positioning, or we're happy with our positioning. We ain't moving. Like, we're not moving until somebody forces us out of here. So it's really interesting for me to hear about kind of as the meta develops, I guess, within this format of some of these teams that maybe are more suited towards playing very fast and loose on the edge and finding that freedom on their own terms, now thinking about a different style of game.
Let's take a look at the overall leaderboards at the end of this first week, Matchroom. I'm sure you got something you want to talk about, but I'm going to set you up with something because I feel like this is a really interesting topic. But the thing that stuck out to me the most is that he's talking about adjustments made for the lobby that they got this particular time, and that he's going to dump all those changes for PCS5. Do you think that this is how the meta is shaping up, or do you think it's just this lobby in particular that's acting weird?
I don't know. I almost feel like more of what he's referencing is a little bit of a change in the dynamics, because we have seen the roster swap coming in, and I think that affects the way that the team's playing for a certain style. And with referencing what Hypoc was talking about, we tended to see a specific style coming out from them. And now it looks like they're just trying to change the flavor of the way that they want to play. Right now, they're going to commit to what has been working, because let's be honest, 3 chicken dinners going well. Now starting to get the team fights going in their favor also feels well, but it feels like they might be able to find success in a different way. And that's what you want to see, is a consistent growth coming out of that team.
Yeah, I mean, you take what you can get, you take what the game presents for you, and you make do from there. As we take a look at our kill leaders, you see the Dignitas boys up at the top there, Shrimsy up at the top for the damage leaders as well. Hypoc, worth noting that all is not lost just yet for these teams, right? This is only week 1. We've got another full week to play, and whoever has the most money after those 2 weeks are done, that's who's gonna be taking not only the extra $5,000, but they're gonna be taking the champions PGC points. So, Sonics fans, and who else? TSM fans, all the fans of people that are sitting a little bit lower on the leaderboard, it's not over yet.
No, it's not. Ultimately, there is, I guess, a leaderboard reset, so to say, and the opportunity, look at it, obviously, with Oath posting that and a couple of the other teams below, obviously a poor placement next weekend effectively could leave it wide open for a few more teams to really advance themselves up the leaderboard. Well, I guess place well on the final leaderboard is a better way of wording that.
And Matt, we've talked about it abundantly at this point. The Well lobby playing out a lot differently than a lot of people are expecting or were expecting it to. So these week 1 to week 2 adjustments are going to be absolutely crucial.
And again, specifically, we were talking about teams that were very prone to do homework, and I put TSM in this category. Whenever we look at, I guess, the evolution of some of these teams, it's kind of hard to keep up with that amount of homework because we're seeing a lot of change-ups in play styles coming in with these rosters, or just teams that are feeling more comfortable in cases such as Dignitas, where they're like, chicken dinners are great, and I know that's what we're supposed to be going for, but boy, I really want to kill those people over there, and they'll go for it. Those are kind of different X factors that are a little bit harder to handle. And so teams that can kind of thrive in the chaos a little bit, we're starting to see are finding successes. And that's not a bad thing to say in the least. That just means that they're very responsive to what's going on around them. Oath, Akreshe, Fiumba. Why am I saying it? Fiumba. Gotta say it right. Fiumba. So we're seeing the fact that these guys are quick adapting, and I think that is very, very important. iBox is losing over there. You can't lose it. You're gonna make me lose it, man.
We've done that 20 times, man, in between the games, and he pulls out now in the post show. It's great.
You gotta get it in while you can. So okay, iBox, I gotta ask you real quick before we let everybody go. Do you think this leaderboard is gonna look similar to next week as it did this week? Based off of what you saw,
I think there's a chance. I mean, hearing that from Kickstart, it's obviously on their radar to kind of assess this different ethos, I guess, approach towards some of these games, at least where they're kind of taking a step back and looking at the objectives as a bigger picture, as opposed to who can we farm on the edge. Because Oath are one of the teams that, you put them in most team fights, mechanically they're going to come out on top, right? Yeah. I think also on the flip side of that, there's an opportunity here for some lessons to be learned from maybe a couple of teams that you can say had a poor day one and weren't able to turn things around. And unfortunately, I'm looking towards Sonics and TSM, right? Getting something going on day 2 and 3, at the bare minimum day 2, is usually where we find them, in some kind of comfort zone.
This could be the good swift kick in the butt that those guys need, Matrim.
Yeah, I was going to chime in with... No. I think that it's going to be significantly different. I do think that we're seeing a Akreshe that's coming in with a lot of strength. I think that Fiumba is also quite strong. Oath is going to be more comfortable, but I think that it's going to be a little bit different whenever we're looking at everything next week, just because of the fact that I think that a couple of these teams might be a little bit mad. And whenever we've seen a couple of these teams be mad, I don't think it goes well.
That's true. Well, Akreshe did look phenomenal this week. A lot of kills, good placement, and Fiumba, I was kind of mentioning, made it to Circle 9 5 times in a row. I mean, that takes some doing in a lobby like this. That's acting really weird. But that is going to do it for this week. Get ready for next week, where things are going to be wild and crazy. I can only imagine how this thing is going to play out. I have no idea. But while you're waiting for next weekend to come around, make sure you go and register for PCS5 Open Qualifiers. Registration is up now. Get your 4-man together. Go in there and show these guys what it's all about. You think you're better than Akreshe? You think you're better than Fiumba?
Are you fancy it, guys?
Yeah, you fancy a go? Come on, get in there. Get show them what you're all about.
I was talking to you two.
Oh, me?
Yeah, Godspeed is the 4th. Let's go.
We did play in the original PUBG Online events. Thank you very much. Everybody tends to forget that.
That's true. We were one of the first professional players in the entire scene. I think we were around before Hypoc was, maybe. I don't know.
Way before my time, yeah.
I don't know.
Actually, I don't think so. I think he was on Team Rocket at the time. Well, what was
correct?
Maybe Wolfpack. But anyway, that's going to do it for us here. We're so glad that you were able to join us. So on behalf of Godspeed, Clover, Hypoc, and Matrim, I've been Porosaurus. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.